Hello.
Who or what is a Reese?
My boss, CEO of Atlas, we're at war with Malawan. Not from around here, are you? Now all these maniacs show up all over the city screaming about some vault.
This is the work of the Calypsos. I am hunting the vault to keep its power out of their grasp.
The Calypsos? Those yammering assholes with the cult? Well, I got no slagging clue about vaults, but Reese would know. Come on, I've got to tell him about our new bandit problem anyway. I'll introduce you. I'm good to go here. The place is compromised anyway. Let me know when you're ready. Grab some wheels. We need to drive through the spillways. There's always trouble. My people are inside. Let me do the talking. Oi, Skyman! Open up!
Password?
Passwords? Open the bloody door before I shove a coffee grinder up your ass.
Definitely okay, guys. Welcome back, sir.
Report. How's it looking?
Lots of bandits and Malawan working together. Move the SIDs into the tunnels just in case. And we've tried contacting Reese. Malawan jamming our comms.
Bollocks. Station, Skyman. Come on, Vault, this way. There's an Atlas base nearby with a direct line back to Reese and HQ. Malawan captured it a few months ago. I haven't had the manpower to take it back, but now that you're here, maybe we can finally send those bastards packing. See these civilians?
Yeah, I listened to a Flat Earth podcast that day. They're talking about ancient times where they had the Flat Earth map set up in that for thousands and thousands of years. Very interesting stuff.
So, as you can see, life sucks right now. There's these two Malawan guys, Rex and Max, who are crapping it up in particular. It's like they're trying to out each other. One of them murdered him. I don't know. Find out who did it and kill him.
What's up, Parker?
Which means we can't trust either of them. You gotta figure out who killed who if I'm gonna get my revenge.
Customer's always right, bitch. Come on. We're heading towards.
No, I haven't played any of the Outlasts, actually. Oh, I don't know. I never got into that Last of Us.
We're gonna hit them hard and make it hurt. Never let them That was brilliant, Bolt Hunter. All right. Let's get that channel open to Atlas HQ. Re-establishing connection. On. All right. Connection to Atlas headquarters is still intact. When you're ready, Bolt Hunter.
CEO and wartime general of Atlas Corporation. Just a quick question. Who the hell is this and how did you get on my secure line?
Reese, it's Lorelei. We've taken back Watershed Base with a little help. I've got... Hang about. What is that thing on your face?
Oh, this? This is my sea mustache. Troops love it. Anyway, who's your friend?
I am a Vault Hunter and a Crimson Raider.
Vault Hunter? Crimson Beast? Holy crap, yes! How many troops did you bring? 20,000? 50,000?
Near back, you get some water.
My pack may be small, but our body count is high.
What? Come on! I can't take back this city with a single-digit army!
They're good, Reese. Really good. And we need all the help we can get. Bandits are pouring into the city, and they're working with Malawan. Looks like Katagawa's made a deal with the Calypsos.
Perfect. Everybody's just piling on. Well, little friend, you showed up at the right time. My top agent is gearing up to strike at Malawan's strategic gigamine. If they are after the vault, that's where the intel is. Go meet up with my agent. Reese, out.
Right. While you go meet Reese's agent, I'm going to get this base back online and start securing more of the city. Oh, before you head off, I've got something for you. Since you're heading downtown, I'm hooking you up with the Cyclone. It's fast and light, perfect for getting about the city streets. Take it for a spin.
That little sprig of man gave you a new vehicle, huh? I'll make sure it's loaded into your catch route profile so you can deconstruct a new one from any terminal.
Reese's agent is a bit of a loner, but he's got quite the knack for putting people's insides on their outsides. I'm sure you two will hit it off just grand.
Ready for a fight?
Supply of screaming war meat. They are followers. They gave us a bunch of crazy high-tech guns.
And once they take the planet, they get Atlas, and we got the bomb, so you're left playing with whatever you got down there. You just keep doing you.
Don't hold back!
live-streamed fight to the death in Prometheus Seaport District. Kilovolt's a total sleazeball and he's given Battle Royale a bad name. So we're gonna pull the plug on his show. I'll meet you down on the planet. Full disclosure, we used to date. After I left, he joined the Children of the Vault. A cult of mindless followers must have been a magnet for an insecure nothing like Kilovolt.
Glad to have you back.
The grand prize winner of Kilovolt's contest gets to sleep with the man himself. Now there's plenty of reasons a woman might enter a battle royale to the death. Cash, fame, a gun that can melt a man's face off. But betting Kilovolt? That's no prize. Trust me. Oh, just a warning about Kilovolt. Every word that man says makes me want to pull the trigger, if you catch me.
Oh, cool. That's pretty cool.
My drift. And we will. Soon enough.
You entering to win the grand prize?
You know it. I've brought a champion to fight in my name. Besides, I want to draw it out. Let my servants charge
Before we connect.
Whoa, my wires are tingling. I'm not supposed to play favorites, but I feel electricity in the air. Welcome to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? The rules are simple. Each contestant has a token. Whoever gets 4 tokens first wins a single serving of your soup. I'm talking sex stuff! 2 rounds if I've got the goods. All right, Voltheads, let the games begin!
While you do what you do best, I'll figure out a way to cut Kilovolt's cord for good. See you at the bar later.
How about I put my positive with your negative, and let's see if we can make the sparks fly.
Ignore him, sugar.
Enough!
Eat them alive!
That contract has a functioning eye! My friend will be so happy! This universe does not fare well for eyeless robots.
I like your enthusiasm.
I'm not alone!
Get angry, boy!
I like the way you work that trigger finger. Maybe I'll let you flip my favorite switch with it.
I know, it's gross, but pay it no mind, sugar. Eyes on the prize. Let him run his mouth now before we stick some soap in it.
You're just tuning in. This is Who Wants to Bang a Brazilian, where 4 contestants fight to the death to win one night with me. We've got a great lineup of contestants today, including a lovely fighting for the sexes. This box. You're like poetry in motion. If poetry was super deadly.
Ammo's out! Feel the blood!
I mean, Nothing really. I haven't really been. I haven't been at work yet. Oh, then it's been okay. Nothing's been happening. I know Mindy's gonna leave pretty soon from what she said. So I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen.
Someone out there! Get me out! The shitter's holding me hostage!
We'll see what happens Thursday. I don't know if she's gonna come in or Minnie's gonna come in. Because I was talking to her son. Her son was saying she's got a job at that Southern Cafe with
The breakup hit him hard. He started chugging battery acid.
where G Mike's working at with Maddie or Mel. I mean.
Be an idea. Bring Moxie a few batteries, would you? lightweight if you ask me. He won't go anywhere without that electricity shield of his.
A furious rage.
Whoever wins the contest is gonna get some toast points of ice cream. Guess Killerbone's favorite flavor. Go on, guess. Shot
Oh.
Looks like somebody let her out of her cage. This should be good. Jenny, how far that count? All this bloodshed over little old me. I'm starting to feel a spark, Bullhead. Down, 2 to go for Moxie's crew. Can she go?
Don't feel too bad about taking out those other contestants. Sleep with that man, well, they're a menace to society.
I may be crushingly lonely, but at least I'm loaded. That reminds me, I have some debt collectors you'll need to kill at some point. Ooh, it had an N-gen emotive resonator. Now my friend can feel things, like sympathy and pity, and the crushing weight of knowing you'll never be good enough, just like everyone. Right?
Hey, Moxie's crew! I hope you're as freaky in the sheets as you are deadly in the...
He'll get his eventually. Just not the way he thinks.
Make me proud. Nice. Excellent kill, boy.
If you can hear this, I need your help. I've been taken prisoner by this COV lunatic named Tumorhead. She wants to set up a prisoner exchange for her girlfriend, Bloodshot. She thinks I'm an acid filter, but I'm not. If you help me, I'll make it worth your while. Seriously. Head down to her hideout. It's down in the subway station.
Did you see sketch on our head.
I like you better, dead.
What a pig.
Looks like Moxie's crew's going toe-to-toe with Trudy the Tonus of Pandora, whose missing 3 toes but still fights like a psychopath. I'm looking at you, Trudy. I ought to know that you get the shotgun. Yes, I know what it means. I regret it. Looks like someone won't be getting a free coital foot rub. Best of luck next time, Trudy. I'm not surprised Moxie's crew's coming out on top. That's her favorite position.
It's not, but I told him it was. Had to get mine somehow. His circuits are a little short, if you catch my drift.
Where the hell is Moxie's crew going? They're off the map!
My nana used to say a man hides his weakness under his pride, and that gave me an idea. Just one more battery left.
I hear you, Ulysses.
of all is the buzz you feel during. What is this crew doing? Get back to the battle royale!
a way to shock Kilovolt into submission. Find me, and I'll tell you how we're gonna yank the cord on Kilovolt.
How are you in that?
There was a video of the ice wall.
That's the spirit. So I'm taking these. to the pack.
That's so super interesting. This is Dr. Woofy Love. Like Dr. Woofy Love.
I never let him into my bar for the record. He didn't satisfy my cravings. Hand me those batteries, sugar. In my spare time, I like to make my own toys. This one, it's a modification. Something I cooked up in the bedroom. This little device should help us short out Kilovolt's defenses when you hand him my token. I think he'll find it rather shocking. Tell Kilovolt this is a token of my affection, right before you shoot him in the face. And anywhere else you feel he's so deserving, if you catch my drift. Shoot him in the dick. That's the drift.
You're gonna get the job!
It's time to fight!
And Ethan level 13.
Where's Roxy? She's the lucky winner, not you. You're just some nothing.
My crew has its code. I'll be there soon, Kenneth.
You tell me views this guy gets, because he has 3,000 likes, and he has 100,000 views. It's over like 7 years, but I think that's how it works. Like people watch the same thing over and over and over again. Dude, I love Dr. Wolfia. That, Cinema Snob, Nostalgic. Nostalgic got it really good too. Cinemassacre's kind of. I like AVGN. But AVGN's kind of went down the hill.
Just as I reported.
The first 5 seasons were amazing. Give me up a little, damn it. So I gotta equip that Atlas gun. No, you don't. You say random stuff, dude. You don't have stuff to cancel. That is the one I want though. That's a lot better.
Of my enemies.
That's so powerful. I get like a blue of this or that pick up this if you have to. Legendaries aren't too good at that, but okay. Maybe it goes to 2%. want to stay at Denny's and go from there. Hopefully my YouTube page will pick up, maybe. I guess we talk about some mental health stuff. For what I realized for all the years, the stuff that I've been through, so to speak, a lot of mental health stuff is just figuring out what you want to do with your life, honestly. You know, you gotta start somewhere, so you want to have a guiding point. Which I know a lot of people don't have much guiding points, so like, a guiding point would be like, okay, what do you need to get the work? He's stamina. You need stamina, so cardio is your best bet. The more cardio that you have, the better off you're probably going to be. So cardio is the number one thing. And lifting weights. The stronger you are, lift heavy. Do your percentages of weight based upon your body percentage. So if you're 120 pounds, start off pushing and pulling, 30, 40 pounds and get used to it. And then move up to half your body weight. Like I'm at some things I'm over half my body weight besides my
Let them hear your
bench press. My bench press is definitely not half my body weight. Or it is half my body weight. Like I can't bench a lot. I can back pull a lot. I can back pull, I think it was like 190 pounds I did twice. So I mean, that's all it is, trying to build yourself up. So the minimum people have to mostly lift is, like they say, about 50 pounds. So I tell anyone, because like there's a kid at our job and that, he's young and that, he's like, man, this stuff's getting heavy. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna get heavy. I know, like it's this job's not easy. It's actually very strenuous. No matter how much people want to say, oh, no, it's not. No, if you are... I mean, I see when a woman does dishwashing that it's extremely fucking difficult. Because just to be able to pick up those plates and get all the plates in, you got to pick up over a couple 100 pounds worth of plates all together. So if you add in how much muscle mass someone has, so say someone's from like 120 to 200 pounds, you go by mass. So the bigger you are, the more you can carry, the more longer you can last, because you got bigger muscles than that. You weigh more, so you can hold more.
Jenny, I had high hopes for her. Lena was quite a looker. Too bad. And finally, if you'll hand over Moxie's token.
I am neither man nor woman, but both deserve more respect.
It dude kills you so fast. I hate bosses in this game. Like, they kill you so fucking fast. They only take like once or twice and drain like half your health. That's so fucking shit. That's what I hate about fucking bosses, and they're so fucking stupid. fuck boss fights, dude. Dude, why do you have so much fucking life, bro? Jesus Christ.
All fizzle, no sizzle, as always, Kenneth. Good riddance. Take his backpack, Vault Hunter. I've got just the place for it at my bar.
Look at that little butt wagon. Roll over.
Ha! Got dusted.
Found me some loot.
Sus. Cavers active, taunts all enemies. Ooh, okay, I like that a lot. Okay. I can't fucking switch. Need a bigger fucking book bag. She's gonna suck to blow. Ha! SMGs fucking suck. Look how bad they are. What the fuck is that? Like, they take 9. They're so bad. SMGs used to be pretty fucking good. Now they're just fucking shite. So fucking stupid. Like, SMGs on BorderLands 1 were cool. We can get a shotgun one. I do miss playing Borderlands. Like, Tiny Tina's Wonderland was pretty good. I did like the concepts of that game, but like, that's when they had the whole like gender crap in there. You had to be like they, them, all this crap in there. Like, what the fuck? Why do people even care about that? Like, the masses don't care about that. We're all straight people. Like, God, I hate when people.
Thanks for the help.
It's not that I care about that. I think it's just stupid. You be whatever the fuck you want to be. It's just putting that political bullshit in people's stuff, and you got gamers that really don't think like, dorky people don't give a shit about any of that crap. We don't care. We're dorks. You know how you keep a dork happy? Food, drinks, porn, anime. That's basically it. I didn't know where the fuck my dog's at. You don't need a lot to keep us happy. You don't need a lot to keep us happy. You need very little. That's what I like about being a dork. Because I can have my fantasies come true without even, like, actually like stuff. So it's like being more pure-hearted than what other people ever be. I'm trying to get to 14, so I gotta get up at least level 15 in this area. The ulti might be nice in this game. Get a bit more experience and shit. I think I can. No, I can't just go physical damage shit. But yeah, like every time I go through any type of thing with like like how I live my life and that, dude, I hate to be a fucking player. I hate to be on the spotlight and shit all the damn time. Like a little bit, cool beans, but man, people like being in the spotlight way too damn much. Man, people love that spotlight stuff. Yeah, but it makes it really beautiful when you actually, you know, do get the attention that you need. Because you need attention. Not everyone's going to be completely ugly, same unless they're focused on something to where it's like more important than other people.
Look, this AI won't take scrap metal. All you have to do is swap this ship-shipping AI ship for one with a looser interpretation of the law. Like a dirty cop. They're always harassing my crew for bribes.
Don't pinball.
Get me out of here. Go find them.
Citizens, thank you for choosing the Beacon Pod.
You're a light plugged into a shit box. I ain't paying.
Cursing is a class 1 offense. You have been fined an additional $5,000.
Get out of here. I'm gonna crap all over you.
Had to listen to that one. Shit. Hella funny. slow. They ain't as bad as freaking Outrider. Outrider, man, you face like... Dude, Outrider's weird. Like, you'll face like enormous amount of people. Outrider's really fucking heavy on like being multiplayer and shit. Damn, I'll get my thing plugged in.
Some days you hunt, some days you are.
So my kids, they were born.
for a pathetic creature. Never ending.
Video copyright strikes, which weren't actual hold against you. Pointed out that the
Hear me now?
space station is fake, but
Hold on.
NASA didn't put those copyright strikes on me. A place called Believe Entertainment did, believe it or not. And I challenged one of those, and they lost, and it's running, so I've challenged the other one. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I like Mason. Mason's a good kid. He's young.
Listen to the Believe Entertainment to see who that is. Yeah, they have big names. It's a going concern, but apparently they own the copyright on astronauts on the International Space Station for some reason.
Don't you feel bad about bullying those poor astronauts for how hard they work?
Well, let me put it this way. If I bullied someone, there's an injured party, produce that injured party, and I'll personally apologize.
Yeah. Hey, so you started off talking about the event that happened out in the city of Sin, and I'd like to just talk about that a little bit and how it really shows how indoctrinated, dumbed down, and I showed him stuff from this that is just ridiculous, and he can't see it, and it's just beyond what I can understand how people can't see. What do you talk about?
Well, I've talked recently about people who are highly trained having some of the most difficult times looking over a reality-based existence. As an example, I had a heart specialist from PhD had come to my house for dinner, and they were commiserating on how the hell Trump possibly could have won the election. And when I pointed out, why are you upset about this? Your vote plays no role in seating a president, as we all learned in high school. It's the Electoral College, which is just a backdoor to power. They became very upset, and then they began to defend the very system that they were complaining about. And in that, I learned an important lesson, that the more kind of trained and educated you are into a system, the more likely a human being is to defend that system, because they've spent so much time becoming an expert of that system. And I have noticed this, so that could be part of it. But as we all know, it's frame of mind, isn't it? Until you understand that we have been programmed from the get-go, you may not be able to make the leap over to a reality-based existence.
Nothing is the way it seems, and the smarter you are, the dumber you are, or the more indoctrinated that you are.
Dave, I would rephrase that in a different way. Human beings are all the same, mostly. And any human being that's trained up to a certain level in any given field is going to have an investment in that field. And it's no different than maybe having a pet dog you love. You're very invested in this thing you've been exposed to for so long. It's a bit like that, maybe. So I would point out that I don't think it has anything to do with how intelligent an individual is. It's just about, it's about being so invested in a thing that you're only seeing the trees and not the forest.
Yeah, Dave sent me a link to the video. It was posted just in the last couple of days. The Break the Matrix Get Inspired video. And there was something that he mentioned in the course. It's a really good rant or, I guess, diatribe. And one of the things that's sitting there was so true, it applies to all of this, is that, you know, in order to know something, you have to first, you know, admit that you know nothing. And for a lot of us in this journey, man, that, you know, it was a tough pill to swallow early on. But then you keep stumbling upon issue after issue, topic after topic, where you're like, everything I thought was wrong is completely different.
Well, to some degree, well, this is a big part of why I have regularly said belief is the enemy of knowing, and this is not a shot at anyone's religious views. It's not that at all. It's about whether you choose to believe a thing simply because you're told, or would you prefer to know something about it. The real truth here is direct observation is the only way forward, and there's a lot of truth to what you just said. I would point out that the truth is none of us know where we exist. It's been misdescribed. The truth is none of us know how we got here. The truth is none of us know how long we've been here. And the truth is the vast majority of us don't know what we're supposed to be doing. A lot of people will probably have religious traditions and other things that start to address these issues, but if you truly break down to what I have just said, you will begin to understand that these are truths. And the real problem here is if you still think you know that NASA is telling you the truth, even though someone may have told you that in Hebrew the word NASA means to deceive, you've got some catching up to do. The truth is that the place we live is misdescribed. That is a truth. And when you get to that truth, you'll be able to...
It's a really good podcast. I think everyone should listen to this podcast. It's called Flat Earth Podcast. It is podcast episode 12.
Of course, as a researcher,
Crow 77 Radio.
I can't answer this, I guess, factually, but
These are extremely intelligent people that talk about actual proofs.
We don't know where we're at. We don't know where we're living because we've been misled. We couldn't agree more. But just between, you know, the three of us, do you think that there are people out there, individuals that do know what we're living on?
Of course, that's logically deducible. We wouldn't have been told the lie. There would have been no lie proffered if people didn't know the actuality of the situation. And on the flip side of that coin, so many people listening were going to probably be saying to themselves, what do you mean we don't know where we exist? And I'll give you an example. For a long time, I followed people who were challenging the description of this world. What I did is I had already come to understand that direct observation is everything. So I took some very high-end optics. I went out to a body of water, and I put that optics to work over the body of water, and I quickly discovered I could see too far for the curvature model to be accurate. This doesn't give me a new map of our world. It doesn't do a lot of things I wish it could. What it does do is tell me that the curvature model is not correct, and it's not arguable. There are any number of videos where people, even from Hawaii now, where they're showing one Hawaiian island from another, when the curvature model dictates that Hawaiian island should be over the curve of the horizon. These are things that are not really assailable. The problem becomes that people are so attached to their belief system that they will refuse to consider what's being offered up. And the real truth is that until they go outside and do it for themselves, they'll be at the mercy of someone else telling them what is accurate.
You know, children are, you know, we're brought into kindergarten at, what is it, 4 years old or preschool, and the first thing they show us is the globe. And you know, who was it that said, you know, give me a child until the age of 7 and I will mold him for life? That Bernays or somebody?
Yeah, that sounds like some Bernays sauce, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. So, you know, when you have these core beliefs put into you before you have the intellect to argue them, they become very, very difficult to remove. You know, that's why we see when we talk about, you know, hey, the reality of the world that we live on isn't what is described, hence, you know, the Earth is stationary and flat. People have a gut reaction and become angry.
Yeah, well, you know, these are normal human states. To have, you know, it's a bit like being in the middle of the ocean holding onto a life preserver and someone's trying to yank the life preserver away from you. You know that the human response to that is going to be panic because some people are not prepared to let go of that life preserver. The truth is most of us don't need the life preserver. We'll swim just fine without it. But nonetheless, that's a normal human response. But again, direct observation will take you where you need to go. If you don't know what to believe, these guys over here are trying to tell me the curvature model is wrong. These guys over here are trying to tell me I'm spinning through space faster than the speed of sound. Who do I believe? It's a simple thing. Go use direct observation. Go out into the world and do what a higher-minded human being was meant to do in this world. Observe a thing and then understand a thing better than you did previous. That's how you can start to make steps forward. Once you begin to understand that some of the biggest beliefs that are held by our society at large are incorrect, things like dinosaurs, things like nuclear weapons, these things are demonstrably false things. But the problem is you've been told they were real since the time you were wearing diapers, and that is a powerful force, as Dave is pointing out.
You brought up two of the topics I wanted to go on. Let's just jump over to nukes for a second. I've been listening to, I don't watch the mainstream news, but I guess they're talking about North Korea missing uranium, all sorts of stuff, the threat, and we should attack, and it's just it's a whole nightmare. And so when I come across grown men talking about all of these points, well, while you're listening to Fox, while you're listening to, Channel 7, and they're arguing with each other over nonsense. And I've interjected myself in where I say, what if I told you nuclear bombs don't exist? And, their eyes pop out of their head. And it's the same argument. It's actually very easy, and I recommend anyone tries it. You say, why do you think nukes exist? There's two reasons. One, you saw the house and the trees bending over backwards. Go watch that, and you'll see that it's a miniature model. And then you saw the one with the ship and the bomb in the background. And then it goes to, Fukushima, not Fukushima, Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I learned that from yours and Jason's research, that people lived there before, during, and after. The trains were running 3 days later, and they probably have a lower cancer rate than we have in the United States.
Not only that, during the war, there was only one recognized journalist allowed in, and of course, the same thing that's true with all wars or conflicts is your travel is limited, so people couldn't go in there. But it's a simple thing for a higher human mind to deduce that there has never been a time when people, plants, and animals did not exist in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I was in the Marine Corps. I actually saw some of these places and asked the question. When I was a kid, I was told the half-life of the radiation here was thousands of years. No one had an answer for this. Well, I don't need an answer from everyone. The one thing we've been told about radiation is it will destroy living cells. Well, the one thing people, plants, and animals have in common is living cells. There has never been a time when people, plants, and animals did not exist at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and it proves the falsehood. But you could take that further. You could go out to the Bikini Atoll. You were talking about the Hollywood special showing the bombs blow up with naval ships. Well, they're still pushing that lie. They recently took people out to the Bikini Atoll and said, well, we can be here for half an hour as long as we wear the radiation badge. But if a human being ever ate any of the food here, they die of horrible cancer. Meanwhile, they're breaking down some coconut crabs that live there. Well, a coconut crab has something in common with a human being. It has cells in its body. That coconut crab has been eating what is ever available to eat, and that's supposedly radiated, polluted place.
Yeah.
Right, but then they take it a step further and they do the crossover to the complete fantasy-based reality of The Simpsons, where they start to say, all these years we've been saying that birth defects and these weird things can happen when radiation is at play and births happen. Look at this shark out here. For all the sharks like this we've seen in the world, it has this many fins on its dorsal, and now look, here's one with an extra fin, proving that this radiation, well, I come back to the same thing. A higher-minded adult will recognize that a shark has cells in its body. That shark has been eating fish at the Bikini Atoll. Not only that, there has never been a time when palm trees didn't cover the Bikini Atoll. These are provable things that you can demonstrate to yourself. Nuclear weapons do not exist in the way they've been described to you. And one of the big problems people have is, what about all the, electrical facilities, those big domes that we're told are nuclear? You know what they're doing there? They're boiling water. That's what they're doing there. They're boiling water. They're just doing it in a really expensive way. There was a man on the internet called Galen, I think his last name was Windsor of all things, that used to go around eating plutonium and uranium to show people that you've been lied to. I would point everyone back to the China Syndrome movie. I think it won an Academy Award, or if not, it was a big deal. This is the programming that has brought you nukes, that brings us forward to the modern day, where the clown Trump with his frickin' orange wig on his head making fun of everyone in this country and the world wants to start another war on the idea that North Korea has nukes. Not only do they not have nukes, they don't have a rocket that can go any further than the ocean in front of them. These things are demonstrable to a higher human mind. So the question becomes, will you be a person that turns on your news and lets that talking head, which is owned by a corporation, tell you what reality is? Or will you use your human abilities to determine that? There's the question.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, Dave started this out with the nukes, saying that, you know, most people, the only reason you know, quote unquote, know that there's nukes is due to the Hiroshima footage and the footage of the trees being bent over, whatever. Not only that, but, you know, there's probably a group of young people out there that aren't even seeing that footage. They're simply believing it because it's discussed so much. And I just want to put out there that...
I'm listening to a Flat Earth podcast. I think everyone should listen to this. It's Flat Earth Podcast, episode 12, Crow, which you are, 7-7 Radio. Do they talk about all the stuff that's been propagandized? My God, there's so much shit going on. It's stupid. It's dumb.
Just because it's in discussion, just because it's in a book, or whatever, is not actual observation that Crow is talking about.
Well, I can take everyone a step further. What's going on here is the misuse of alchemy. What it's doing is it's transmuting the human mind into an infantile, lower, animalistic mindset. That's what's going on here. Anyone listening can go to a YouTube channel called Hoaxbuster. He is the person who made what I consider, if there was an Academy Award for YouTube clips, this man made it.
Oh, yeah,
he's in Scotland, and Marie Curie, or Mercury, get it? Marie Curie, Mercury, who is the foundational...
That's unbelievable.
The foundational block in the wall that we need to have nuclear anything or radiation exist is Marie Curie. Go look at the clip he did on Marie Curie, and he will prove to you that it is an alchemical construct. He will even show you how it relates to the sign of Mercury in alchemy, to include Pierre Curie, her husband, who was killed at the Crossroad. I will point you back to the Bikini Atoll. That was Operation Crossroad. It's an alchemical mind screw. It is transmuting your mind if you choose to believe in this nonsense. And every time your mind is drugged to the crossroad.
No, I ain't quit my job at all. I got more hours. Everybody else quit. I got the hours I wanted. I hope it stays like that. I'm probably not going to quit my job. Not at all. Yeah, I applied for Five Guys and that, but they were having problems keeping people, at least for the morning shift. They're looking for a night shift thing, and I was just telling the guys, as long as you give me 30 plus hours or close to 40 hours, I'll work. You know, because I want my hours. I'm not rich. I just got this paycheck coming up. It's going to be my first 35-hour paycheck. I mean, I probably will get some burgers out, but that job's, to me, here's what it is. I like Denny's, but the job is too intensive for the money I get paid. And when I was talking to some of the managers, one of the shift managers there, she was talking to people, it's like, why don't dishwashers get paid more? It's like their job is very difficult because they got to do three things. They got to do dishes, they got to take the dishes out there. They got stack up dishes, and they got stack up dishes in the kitchen line, and they want us to mop pretty much half the fucking store before we leave, and we gotta keep up with dishes if we get really busy. Like, get paid about $16 an hour should be a recommended amount to get paid, because if it hits the fucking fans, the dishwasher gets fucked the most. The dishwasher can't keep up with it, then the cook can't cook. Then you can't get the food out. So anyone that's not big and strong enough to be able to do it in a modernly manner, like I could pick up a lot more plates than someone that's coming in as a 16-year-old boy. Especially if they're a woman working back there, they won't last long. I told plenty of people, this job's fucking hard. I'm like, these plates, they're not like you're using 10 plates. That's the problem. You're not. You're using, fucking polyester plates. Each one of them weighs close to 3 pounds each. So if you ain't used to picking up 60 plus pounds to be able to get enough plates, stack them up, guess what? You're gonna run out of energy. You're gonna be fucking sitting there tired as fuck. That's why a lot of them can't get it done. I don't know how many times I go in there and there's dishes all over the fucking damn place. I mean, there's one guy in there that does it, but he does nothing else. He refuses to get bus tubs. He refuses to bus tables. And he tells them, you need to bring your fucking shit back here. And that's why I tell these girls now, I was like, I don't mind busting your guys' stuff when it's slow, but that's your job to do. And people try to say that's not my job. No, that is your job. Because the only time I ever have to go out there is if I have to do cups, ice. Even ice should be your fucking damn job. You sit around a lot waiting. And the cool thing is, men are the only one that do it. Most females do not do it. Most females are not strong enough, or they're just lazy because they don't want to work or whatever it might be, and they can't bring it back. But now it's getting to that point is, now they have to, because I'm telling them you got to do it. Sometimes they'll leave their shit out there. They'll go outside and fuck around and talk for 30, 40 minutes. They don't do all that stupid ass shit. And they'll have not their job done. So I get laid back. So I have to start pushing them to do their fucking job. And I'm not getting paid for it. If I do get paid for it, most times they do give me money in that. But I'm trying to tell them, I'm getting tired of doing this. It's like, why are you so tired? You're so strong, and strength doesn't fucking matter. If I have to sit there and pick up, say, 15, close to 50-pound bus tubs every day, you count how many calories it takes to pick up 25% of my weight 15 times and carry it. I'm walking it for at least, say, 10 seconds. If you add that up, 15 times 10, that's 150 seconds. That's a couple minutes of, picking up stuff. My calorie count's going to go down. If you use simple mathematics, your calorie count goes down based upon how much you carry something. Yes, 50 pounds is not heavy for me. But after a period of time, I will get tired. I mean, people don't think like that because most people are fucking dumb, but yeah. Time is energy. Standing up, okay, if I stand up for 8 fucking hours, if I do, say 6 hours. And 6 hours of just standing up burns close to 1,000 calories. Close to 1,000 calories. That's not even saying moving. That's just standing on your legs for 6 hours. Well, if I'm moving around, picking up dishes and that, okay, so my calorie count goes up to 1,300. If it gets busy enough, I can lose 1,600 calories, close to 2,000 calories. If I'm not eating to keep my calories at least above that ratio by quite a bit, I'll get tired. My body will fucking start to shut down. But dumb fucks don't understand that because they don't get it. It's like, well, I'm tired because I carry out plates. But the thing is, you're carrying out plates. I get it. You'll dish it out, but you don't have to do the fucking dishes, though. You don't have to sit there, grab all those plates, put them in the dishwasher, go like this for like an hour and a half, which burns through energy. So I'm standing up, I'm grabbing the plates, hot ass water's on my hand most of the times. I'm constantly burning through energy, going with the sprayer, going like this, like I'm fucking jacking off, and jacking off takes a lot of energy sometimes. So I got 2 weights in my hands, basically, constantly moving them. I'm gonna get tired. And I gotta push the dishes into the dishwasher, and I gotta slide the other two brackets that are clean, I gotta push them. That can weigh over 60 pounds of push. Don't think that's a lot of weight. I gotta take all the dishes out, and I gotta pick them up, turn them around, drop them off, and I gotta push them into like this little cavern where it goes down, so I can be able to go on the other side. I'll pick it up multiple times, the same fucking damn dishes, and then carry them into the thing. It's a lot of fucking work. There's multiple steps to it. But like, they don't understand that. And then when shit hits the fans, I gotta work faster, so now I'm even more fucking damn tired. So man, people don't understand that. I mean, yes, I can sit in the back. If I don't have to fucking move at all from my position and everybody else carries that shit out for me, I'd be cool. But they don't want to do all that work. They don't want to grab the fucking damn cups. Like, hey, we need cups. I'm doing this. If you came back to tell me that, you can grab cups right now. But no one does that. Only some people do that. And most of the time, most times a man will do it, or someone that's actually experienced in work, man or woman, will do it. Most of the times that I've noticed, like there's one girl that I work with, she's a younger woman, and she actually goes in the back and grabs silverware. She'll grab cups for me. She'll start grabbing stuff in that. Because if I have a pile of fucking dishes, it gets extremely heavy. Just sit there and do 5-10 bus totes worth of dishes. And that's what it is. So at 5 guys, I'm not going to have to work as hard. Like, that's what I'm betting on. And I get paid $1 more. Like, they're looking for a night shift. So if the GM does call him for a second interview, and he's like, hey, what can I give you? You know, if you give me at least 30 hours a week, maybe more, depending if you need me or not, I'll be more than happy to stay here. The problem is the consistency. If my consistency of payment doesn't stay the same, then that's going to be the problem. So I'll have to go in and try to find a job that's going to be more consistent. Because working 3 days a week was boring. I had 4 days off a week. It was so many days off. It was just tedious as fuck to sit around. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I get 2 days off now and I'm happy. You know, because I always... You know, the first 2 days of work are actually pretty nice. Because then I feel accomplished that I'm actually, you know, making money in that. So I know how much money I'm going to make. So this paycheck and next paycheck are going to be over $300 each. One one's going to be close to $400, and the other one's going to be right at like $350 something. So I did the calculation of it. So 30 hours a week is going to give me right at like, should give me right at 420 gross. So if you do simple math, then I'll probably get like 390. So 35 hours a week will give me over. It'll give me right at like 400 and something. So I got 2 weeks worth of pay coming that I'm already knowing how much I'm going to get paid for. So I'll make close to $800. Cause that's what I like about Hooters. I wish I could work at Hooters again. That money was great. I got paid about Almost $1,200 a freaking week. You know, my first paycheck pretty much paid for all my bills and paid for almost everything. And like, I was making money. I think that people are so fucking stupid, they get so fucking panicking that when you're working at pretty much a fucking slut bar, and you know, it's pretty much like it's like a prostitution bar in a way. So much they're selling their body for fucking money. I mean, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. That's basically what it is. Hmm. 5 times 25. Oh, these are all torties. But yeah, it's actually that splash radius is pretty good. That splash radius. Yeah, if I was still there, I'd probably have like 15, 20 fucking K just sitting there. You know, I'd be halfway to my $100,000 mark almost. No. So I was saving like over $1,000 something a fucking month. And that job was over a year and a half ago. So yeah. I have about $20-some thousand just in my bank account. I'd still be working there. I worked for 10 fucking years there. I mean, shit. You know, and that's what it is. I don't think I understand that. Like, money is unlimited. Your money always makes money. That's how money is. And like, people are trying to understand that, like, what do you mean by that? Well, if you throw money into a CD, so to speak, and you hit 100,000, you get paid 4% of that money every year. So you get paid $4,000 every year, which equals up to about $300 a month. So you got $300 a month just coming in regularly. Like you don't have to touch it. How much $300 a month for me right now is really like a pretty much 70% of a paycheck. Okay, well, I could just save that stuff up and build it up, you know, and keep adding more money in. Okay, once it's 200,000, it'd be 8,000 a month. 8,000 a month that up to, you know, $600. So automatically getting paid a full paycheck extra every month just because of that. And that's how people have to really look at it. And then you can start throwing, say you throw $50,000 into a stock, because you could switch shit around that. So you throw $50,000 into a stock, just purely $50,000, just throw it all into a stock in that, and you let that ride. However much you lose or gain, it doesn't even matter. That's how it starts. And then eventually, you know, all of a sudden you're going to have 2 accounts that are making money. You got your stock account, and then you got your CD account. As long as it stays at $50,000, so to speak, what you do is you take the 50, you add whatever's added on to that 50, you throw it back into your normal account. So if you throw $50,000 in, and let's say that stock gives you a boost of 75,000, you take the 25,000 and you put it into, oh, these are really fucking good. You put the 25,000 back in, and all of a sudden you made half your profit back. if it comes down to that, which normally it doesn't. It's not going to be that big, but that's how you would do it. So then when you get to a certain range and that, and it's going to be a long ass time, fuck, I'll be in my 50s now before anything really starts to flow like that, if I could be able to get up to that. And that's what I need to do. That just matters about how much money I make in general. So if I make even more money, that's if I get, you know, $20 an hour and I do, you know, 20 times 40, now that's $800. That's, you know, going to be roughly around about like $730 a month I'm getting. Well, that's just going to estimate even more. And guess what? I'm going to have my lifestyle is going to be based upon one paycheck. All the rest of it's going to be saved. Well, that's fucking, you know, $2,400 now a month that I'm saving, because I'm not going to need that much money. $700 is going to pay for almost everything. So once again, it's going to build up. So yeah, getting paid a lot of money is great, but don't increase your lifestyle because you get paid a lot of money. I know a lot of people. There's this one girl I talk to that off and on. She works as a computer, like, software person that where she'll like help people with their computers and that, like tell them what to do and that, if they like fix their computer or whatever. She gets paid a lot of money. She sits at home all day and she does that shit. And she started doing this stuff and that. So her father died in that a little while ago, and she collected his Social Security. It went to her. I don't know why it did, but it did. And she ended up, you know, getting an enormous amount of money per month.
Feel the bloodlust.
And she was telling me, you know, she had like $30,000-$40,000 in her bank account, like $60,000-$70,000. It was like $67,000 in her bank account. That her lifestyle is very short. She still lives with her mom and that, I believe. She doesn't care. You can always spend more money on buying a fucking house and buying all that shit and that. But the biggest problem is, yeah, you might have to, you have to get paid more, but you still be able to save. So like if you have a group. So say like if you have a girlfriend and that, and your girlfriend's smart, if you have a brother and that lives with you and that, and you both make money in that, well, guess what happens? You're both making money. So a lot of people don't understand that, like, you can start a really good business and start making money and shit together, and you're having two bodies instead of one. That's why I say having a girlfriend, that could be a good thing if both people work.
Credit to the pack.
I would never accept a woman to not to work. I don't give a fuck how much money I have, how much money I make. You know, if you're gonna be my girlfriend, that as a girlfriend, yeah, it's up for both of us to have a good lifestyle. If we don't have kids, if we start to have kids, yes, I can understand possibly you staying at home. But until that happens, if it comes down to it, if I date someone that's young, like if I date, you know, a 19 or 20-year-old woman, more or less likely it's gonna come down to, yeah. It's going to be a huge possibility that at my age, if I do save up and do get my money together and that, and I get the stuff that I want, that I need actually, you know, like, you know,
I'd like you better dead. Yes, into the fray.
like I need my bathroom done and all that stuff and that, all kinds of stuff I need. You know, once I get the room that I want in that, which is that back wall, I have my own personal, like, gigantic room in that. It's going to be, you know, a room. I'm going to be satisfied. You know, whatever I need to get in that. Well, that's what's going to happen. That's what, like, it's going to be a big progress in that.
Agent is in the Mercantile Plaza. Malawan's got a weapons depot set up inside the mall, and I'll bet bollocks to bullets that's what he's after.
You know, because I know a lot of younger girls and that, like when I go to the gym and that, there's a lot of gorgeous women at the gym and that looking for older guys, looking for guys. 'Cause I saw this one couple in there. They're about the same age as that, and like, you know, she was working out with her boyfriend. And that. You know, she was extremely fucking attractive. She had nice. She was short, skinny, she had plump, fat booty on her and that. The guy was in really good shape of that. He was skinny and that all stuff. Then, like it was like they were helping each other exercise and that. And like seeing that was amazing. It's like seeing that was just like saying like, okay, this person literally seems like that she accepts it. This person and wants to guide him to be better than that. That's how it should be.
Good boy.
You both work towards the same goal to become better. Well, that's the biggest problem that I have. And like when I talk to some women, especially around my age and that, they're gone. I know I'm bringing up different stuff and that, but it has all to do with money and budgeting and that.
Find some quality firepower in there.
That's what it is. Yeah, that'd be fucking fantastic. I know some people, you know, want to be rich people because they don't want to do anything.
Welcome to No Roast for the Wicked. I'm Lorelei. What can I get for you today?
Ah, yikes. Kinda put me on the spot there. So many different roasts. What's your favorite?
Oh, you have got to try the Arcturian Super Black. It is honestly the most wonderful thing in the whole world.
I'll have one of those then. 8, sugars, please. Lorelei, I gotta ask, you're so cheerful. How do you keep that up all day?
Oh, that's just the caffeine talking. I'm a right nightmare otherwise. This one time we got...
What the fuck? I wish Sarah was that good. Too bad he's not.
Hello, Vault Hunter. Let's ruin Maliwan's day. Our mission begins.
Something familiar about that one.
That's Zero. He used to be a Crimson Raider like you. Wondered where he'd ended up. He's always been a little cryptic, but he's as deadly as they come.
AWIRs, but their masters have long since fled. Decommission them.
Look, it's a dome, a flat Earth. How the dome is.
You there, how are your last breaths going?
I really want to go to QT and get some stuff, and I've been trying to like cut back on going to QT so damn much. I really want to give me some G Fuel on that. I don't want to drink all my pre-workout out.
All bots demolished. Lower that shield so we can loot some sweet weapons.
The force field's down? Brilliant! That weapons depot should be easy pickings now.
Incoming dropships. Is that Atlas?
Negative. We need
Ready.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna definitely say it, Denise. I was gonna be able to make. I was gonna make close to it. If I can get over $400 per paycheck, I think I'll be okay for right now. I think at least be able to say
What are we hunting for?
at least one pay, at least $800.
My sword requires an upgrade. Search through this depot.
Now, if 5 Guys gives you what I want, then yeah, I'll go to 5 Guys, but that's see. Yep. Yeah, my one guns actually are pretty good. Yeah, you always get 0 sniper right here. What's this, the Atlas? This one is better though. That one shoots 9, this one shoots 2, that one reloads 2, that one reloads 2.5. We'll try that. Shield alert. What's this one? Isn't it the same one? I don't see it. Damn.
That's the sword upgrade. I need it for our mission. I'll trade you for it.
I got too many items.
I could ditch Haiku. I have a pentameter. No
No.
Misusing alchemy, it has to happen. You cannot prevent it. Every time your mind is drugged to the crossroads, you are forced to make a decision. You have to go straight, you have to turn left, you have to turn right, or go back the way you came. There are no other options, and that is what is going on here. If you make the wrong choice at that crossroad of information you have been brought to, your mind will go further into a fantasy-based reality. If you make the right choice, then the opposite of that is true. I urge everyone to go over to Hoaxbuster on YouTube, look at his Marie Curie clip, and he proves outright, not arguably, that Marie Curie, the discoverer of radiation, the foundational foundation of the idea of nuclear weapons is basically an alchemical
I have
mind
never
screw.
hunted a
It's a hoax.
gigamine,
That's what
but
it
I look
is.
forward to seeing
Sorry
it
to tell
die.
you.
So while you were saying all that, Crow, I was just headed over to that channel and subscribing because I can't wait to dive into that.
So we will crack open Malawan's head
The
and look
foundational
around for secrets.
requirement to spin the tale of nuclear weapons is Marie Curie. It's been in Hollywood movies, which should tell everyone something, and it relates it to the sign of Mercury. And the sign of Mercury and the idea of the rooster is so critically important in the kind of the lodges, the secret society lodges, and the idea of alchemy. And I would point out to you that the supposed bomb drops on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were done in the year of the rooster. This is all very well thought out, but it's a fantasy. And until people grow up enough that they're willing to challenge things they've been told their whole life, they're going to be living in a fantasy-based reality. And the Hoaxbuster clip is a great place for people to start because it tells you a truth that is so critically important to everyone who is living in fear of North Korea, who does not possess a nuclear weapon in the way they've been described. And not only that, rockets don't work in the way you've been told either. They can't hit anything but the ocean with a rocket. Nobody can.
Just like we're scared of North Korea now, with the people uninformed and not on the news, when you bring up no nukes, everybody goes out after...
Excellent kill, boy!
Japan, they say, well, what about the Cold War and the Russians, and I always say, how many battles were there between America and the Russians? It was complete and utter nonsense. Is your view that, the entire Cold War was two people on the same side just pretending to fight?
There's no portion of history that isn't complicit in what we're talking about, and it comes down to a simple thing. There has been a ruling class for as long backwards as we can look. Unfortunately,
a human would be pondering the meaning of life
by a
right
man
now.
Supposedly, Napoleon Bonaparte uttered those words. Whether or not he existed, I can't tell you. But those are very true words. What you're looking at is the world as a chessboard where a very old group of families who have always controlled most of the wealth, all of the land, things like this, are playing a global chess game for ultimate domination, which is kind of outlined in the book Brave New World. It's the tactics are shown in Animal Farm. 1984 echoes possible outcomes of where this is all headed, and the authors to each of these books are on the outskirts of these very oligarchical, ancient, old families, which seem to trace their existence back to Rome, if there ever was such a place that existed in the way it's described. My point is this. Russia claimed that they were going to the moon. The United States claimed they were going to the moon. We can show flat out that these things are not true. And I would also further point out, for the person who doesn't understand that the United States never went to the moon, I would ask you, if you were Russia and you supposedly spent all this blood, treasure, and money, why didn't you ever complete the mission? The way that we're told it happened is, oh, those Americans put their boot on the moon. That's that. Game over. I guess we can quit trying. That's not the real world, you see, because if we were truly going to the moon, that would be the high ground. That would be fought over endlessly to have the ultimate high ground. And yet Russia to this day has never been to the moon. Well, why? At the same time, we're being told that in 1968, it was decided that we would put a man safely on the moon and return him. Guess what? By the end of 1969, that had occurred, we are told. Really. So they did all that in about a year and a half, something like that. And yet, All these years later, we've never been back. The Russians never completed the mission. And to top it off, you're being told that the Chinese have a robot there now. Unfortunately, the camera failed 5 seconds after it got there. And unfortunately, they named the robot after the very myth that the astronaut Collins talked about on the Apollo missions. It's all a construct. It's all designed to pull you into a fantasy-based reality so that these old oligarchical families can control it all, and you can walk around basically wearing diapers, believing in fantastic things. That's the truth.
You're aware that the reason that the Russians didn't go there and then we didn't go back is because the aliens were there and told us not to come there. It's theirs.
The alien message.
Well, actually, it was the Easter Bunny, you see, because the Chinese named Utu after the rabbit. It was the Easter Bunny that was there. We believe in fantastic things in this world, and half of getting back to reality is simply applying direct observation and common sense. You can no longer live your life saying, well, the man in the white lab coat knows better than I do. Excuse me. The man in the white lab coat is a human being, and so are you. That man in the white lab coat has no more claim to reality or truth than anyone you will ever meet in your life. The question becomes, is the man in the white lab coat the only guy who's willing to take a look?
So there's so many things. We're all over the place. I want to just go back to dinosaurs because you brought that up, and then I want to talk about the adult higher mind, which basically this entire show is essentially about. Dinosaurs don't exist as we were told. There are some people out there that say that they believe that there was some giant lizards, but they lived when man was here. Not millions and millions of years ago. Or how many years ago were the dinosaurs? 60 million?
Yeah, I don't know.
100 billion years ago.
There you go.
Do you think that there were giant lizards? I mean, right now there's some pretty darn big crocodiles and whales are pretty big. Were there other giant lizards here?
No, dinosaurs are a lie. And to put a fine point on it, I'll just tell you a little story. Jason and I on Crow 777 Radio podcast covered that dinosaurs are a hoax. They were invented by a servant of royalty, or a knight. A knight owes its allegiance to the royal house that knighted it. In this case, this particular knight was made head of the Natural History Museum, so placed well to further the lie, and he made up dinosaurs before there was ever a shred of evidence, a bone, a tooth, a fragment, anything. And this sets aside the idea that ancient cultures never really talked about them. But let's get to the point here. We put out this episode, Jason and I, and 2 days later, National Geographic released its big find, the nodosaur, this new dinosaur. It's an alchemical mind screw. It was released at the actual vernal equinox, and in alchemy, alchemical procedures need to start at the spring. That's exactly when they claim to have discovered the nodosaur, but there's more.
Dinosaur.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that, and they were saying it rightly, but I took it a step further. All words have meaning, so I took apart the etymology of nodo. It comes from the Latin nodus, which means basically crossroads. So there you are back at alchemy again. It's node, road junction, and some other things. If you look up the etymology of the Latin nodus where nodo was taken, and you're right back to alchemy at the crossroad again. It's a complete mind game. And until people start using common sense to say, wait a minute, and that's it, as I was doing the research for the No Dinosaur episode, I actually came across engineers in a chat room discussing how it is impossible from an engineer's standpoint, for the physiology of a dinosaur to even exist. They were saying things like the legs couldn't support the weight. They were saying things like the guts would fall right out through the rib cage. They were pointing out that a cow needs 4 stomachs to digest enough grass to exist. And so what's a brontosaur do? Have 62 stomachs?
Right.
They were pointing out all these no-nonsense reasons why it's just a construct. And
I was one of those videos that I was watching or blogs that I was reading was talking about, I think it was the stegosaurs. It's like 100% impossible for them to, structurally, the way that they've created the structure of it, for them to reproduce.
There's no portion of the dinosaurs thing that will hold up to common scrutiny. What's gone on is a knight of the royal family of Britain made them up. He made them up before there was ever a shred of evidence. And then if you'll notice another thing about dinosaurs, there's always little hot pockets where they discover all the bones. I saw something on TV not too long ago where they actually took a helicopter to this completely inaccessible place, because it's the latest hot spot to find dinosaur bones, and they had sitting there waiting for them the skull of a T-Rex. I'm not even kidding you. Here's what I can tell you. No full dinosaur skeleton has ever been found. No skull of any dinosaur has ever been examined by anyone without an invested interest in furthering the idea of dinosaurs. There's all these things that we can look at, but the real problem here is, why in the heck would an adult ever believe that there were these, lizards the size of buildings? Why would you ever believe such a thing? It's because you've been told they found fossils, all these things. But here's another thing. There's actually a place in China now that are making all the fossilized skeletons for all the museums. They mix them with real bones, hippo bones, ground up bones, and it's big business. And you will notice that there is nary a museum you go into these days that does not have a dinosaur skeleton on display. Guess what? You've never seen a real dinosaur bone, because they're all locked up in the back room. These are the fake ones that they make. And by the way, do you remember me telling you no complete skeleton has ever been found? There's problem after problem after problem, and it doesn't take too much brain cycle to get there.
I was in the Home Depot the other day. We're, approaching Halloween, and they have 10, 15-foot high dinosaurs, models, that you can put together for your yard and stuff. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And I grew up on dinosaurs, Land of the Lost.
Yeah, that's right. No, I think I've mentioned the same point with other topics on this show a few times, but my discovery over the last few years personally, it's coincided at the same time with me raising young children, and I can tell you firsthand the amount of globe talk, dino talk, and space talk that these kids from the age of literally from the age of about 3.5 up is unbelievable. It's almost every day that they're sent home with something that it just drives me crazy, a gravity thing or another dinosaur thing, and I'm just like, isn't it ironic that, just those three topics, space, dinosaurs, and the globe, are so focused on with these young children.
Well, it is every day, and I can give you a live example. Right now, every day where I am on the East Coast, there is a kid's cartoon running called Dinosaur Train. Every single day, showing them, cartoon dinosaurs.
It comes on right after Barney.
Well, exactly, the purple dinosaur that we can all believe in. But here's the rub. It's not called Dinosaur Boxcar. It's not called Dinosaur Airplane. It's not called Dinosaur Pickup Truck. It's called Dinosaur Train. Language has meaning. They are training your kids into a fantasy-based reality. And any adult listening to this has the responsibility to go out and determine whether I just said to you is true or not. And it's that simple. If you allow your television to form your reality, I'll be the first person to tell you that the world does not exist in your television. What exists in your television is what some producer, some creator somewhere put together with the intent of it entertaining you. There is no reality coming out of your television, and the corporations that own the content that come out of your television have no thought of furthering your knowledge of the world. On the contrary, the television is for something else altogether.
Podcast. You want to leave a digital voicemail for us? Head over to the flatearthpodcast.com. Click on the blue link that reads, "Got a question? Send us a message."
You can do it from your iPhone or from your computer. First time you do it on your cellular phone, you'll have to download a little app, but after that, you can leave us all kinds of messages. If you want to be anonymous, you can make up a name, make up an email address. We don't care. We just want to hear what you have to say.
We do our best to play or answer these questions and comments on future episodes right here on the Flat Earth Podcast. Download the SpeakPipe app and check us out at theflatearthpodcast.com.
The Flat Earth
Podcast. If you're watching this audio on YouTube right now, and you're not familiar with the world of podcasting, there's a far better way to listen to the Flat Earth Podcast each and every week.
Think of it like your TiVo or your DVR is to your television. You subscribe to whatever show that you like. Whenever a new episode comes out, it records it, downloads it, and notifies you that there's a new episode for easy listening anywhere. Another great feature on most podcast players is you can speed up if you want to hear stuff even faster, or more importantly, it has a jump back and jump forward 30 seconds so you can skip annoying announcements like this.
We're on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and so many more. If we're not on your favorite podcast app, send us a message and let us know to make sure we will. The Flat Earth Podcast.
It's one of my favorite episodes. You know, the dinosaurs, the nukes, all of your episodes are my favorite. And by the way, anyone that's listening to our free podcast that isn't subscribed for $5 a month to Crow's Podcast, you are no longer allowed to download our podcast until you subscribe to him.
Right. So, yeah, before you go forward with your next topic, Dave, I wanted to actually rewind for a second because you just brought it to my attention. Like a lot of the people in the Flat Earth community, Crow, I stumbled upon your channel back, I don't know, a year and a half ago when I was researching this Flat Earth thing. You know, it was hitting me and I couldn't sleep at night and I was gathering information as fast as I could, and I stumbled upon your channel and the Lunar Wave, and, you know, fast forward, I've watched all your videos. I never went forward with the 1 hour deal, right? The extra premium hour until Dave told me, 6 months ago or so, oh my gosh, you've got to get the full membership. It's incredible. Like, the podcast is incredible. So I took his word for it, jumped on it, and I've been a member ever since. But I wanted to take a second, rewind backwards, because I think there's probably a lot of people like me who stumbled upon your channel due to the Lunar Wave. Give us an update on the Lunar Wave, or as far as like where your opinions lie as to what the heck that is.
Well, the Lunar Wave is a piece of footage that I filmed in 2012 on the night of Yom Kippur of all nights. It was probably also truly the fall equinox. Hard to know because they announce false days. They make up a date for an equinox and they say this is the equinox, and it doesn't work that way. For me here in Rhode Island on the East Coast, I was told that the equinox would be on March 20, the equinox that we just passed, when in fact it was the 24th or 25th would have been the actual day we had equal day or night. So it just shows the construct of information, how we're constantly misinformed. But to get back to the point, 2012 I accidentally filmed a thing called the Lunar Wave. By the time I came to understand it was important footage, it led me on an odyssey.
Let them hear your rage!
The telescope, high-end tools, big telescopes, high-end cameras, for 4 years to film the physical reality in which we exist. And that's when I began to realize that we have not been accurately told the truth about things. And anyone can go view the 2012 Lunar Wave. At some point, I didn't want to be the guy anymore who was like the authority of lunar waves. It occurred to me that if the lunar wave that I filmed was ever going to matter, other people would need to film it, other people would need to make conclusions about it. To date, I think something like 20 or 30 other people maybe have filmed it, something like that. I've lost track. And maybe someday it will be shown that that was critically important footage. But even if that day is a long time coming, it has led a lot of people to challenge the physical reality that we think is described right now from our grade school days.
I've watched that lunar wave, 100 times trying to figure out what it is.
Same here.
And the fact that it always, with the other ones that have been recorded, do they always have two that come in a row?
What I consider to be authentic lunar waves will have two waves, though the period seems to differ.
All right, back to dinosaurs for a second. And people have said this, and I try not to blow mucus out my nose when they do. How, if the dinosaurs didn't exist, how do we drive cars and heat our homes?
Well, that's actually a very good question. When, I'm over 50 now.
Let the hunt take you.
They were literally showing us films in school. You can look these up on YouTube, showing that a brontosaurus is dying, turning into oil, and going into your gas tank. That's how we got the name fossil fuel. It has been shown endlessly that fossil fuel is just a made-up nonsensical name, that there is no dying things making oil. As a matter of fact, we don't even know where oil comes from, but that's maybe a whole other conversation.
Do they still teach that to children in school now? Because I know, adults our age were taught that, but do they just skip over it in school, or do they actually still say that nonsense?
I'm not sure. I know that in the research that Jason and I did, it demonstrated there was a period of time where the oil industry walked away from that idea, but they can't walk away from it because we have the word fossil fuels. And even though it's been shown that fossils and fuels have nothing in common, we still have this term that shows the nonsense that they were teaching back in the day when we were in school, when they were showing a brontosaurus die turn into this black goop and then get poured into our gas tank. We even have the remnants of that idea in an oil company called Sinclair that has a brontosaurus as a logo.
I will say this, about 5 or 6 years ago, I stumbled upon the topic of, because I used to work in the oil field, and I would go off on these offshore rigs that would drill for oil, and I discovered something, I think it was around 2006, that there are a ton of oil wells, and anyone can Google this, that are known for refilling themselves.
That's right.
So, they drill down, they tap this thing, and they suck it dry. It takes years sometimes to do, but they get it all out. And then lo and behold, a few years later, a decade later, they stick the straw back down there, and oh my gosh, it's full of oil again. So did more dinosaurs die between those two rocks? And refill it? No.
And not only that, Jason pointed out the depth at which they claim they find fossils, and I'll hold till the day I drop. The fossil you've seen from supposed giant dinosaurs is nonsense. But the depth they're citing doesn't even approach the depth oil is. And I will also point out, not only do the oil wells refill after a number of years, sometimes they produce more than they did the first time. It goes to show you that, in the research Jason and I did to do the crude oil show, we demonstrate that you don't even know what crude oil is, you don't know how it's refined, you don't know what they're doing or what they're delivering, and that it is quite probable that for the average mind, it's almost like you could equate what we call crude oil as the blood of this world, whatever it is that we live in. The point here I'm making is that you've been lied to. You're told that all these, natural things like plants and animals died and turned into this black goop. Well, we all know it doesn't work that way. And not only that, I would ask, if we have all these dinosaur fossils, how come those ones didn't make black goop? And we also all know that if we took a frog out to the desert or an egg and we buried it in the most dry, best environment we could, we know what would become of that organic material. It would rot. The frog would rot, then desiccate. The whole construct of dinosaurs is false. And wrapping that false construct into the idea that that's how we got our oil is also proven false. They admit now, openly, they have backed off the idea that somehow dinosaurs made our oil. But nonetheless, as I pointed out earlier, we have the term fossil fuels, and that ain't going away. And that is expressing an idea into your mind, when in fact fossils have nothing to do with fuel.
There's that show called Dinosaurs, and I think the girl's name on it is Sinclair. Or maybe that's the family's last name is Sinclair. I just went to look up the clip. There's one clip where a fairy or somebody comes down and is telling the girl how the universe works, and she didn't quite understand it while she was sleeping because she's supposed to wake up after this dream. And the fairy, I'm probably getting this all wrong, thought that she was Copernicus, and that's how it was a kind of a funny scene. So I just went to look it up on YouTube. 11 million views. Okay.
Well, there it is. And if I'm not mistaken, isn't Sinclair related to the royal names? I think the name Sinclair is somehow attached to that little church everyone likes to equate with Freemasonry and Knights Templar. This is a connection to the oligarchical families, or the oligarchy families is maybe a better way to say that. It's a mind game, and it's brought to you by the people who have always held power, but there's a difference in the modern age. At some point, these powerful families, presumably royal or something like that from our historical timeline, realized that if you take steel-toed boots and bayonets and swords and try to force a population, there are times when that can get horribly out of hand quick, and that is the last thing in the world they want. They shifted gears. They decided that they would go after our minds, and they have done one hell of a job. They have created complete constructs that we all accept as true, like the description of this world, the description of how many continents there are, the description of what Antarctica is, the description of sun and moon, the description of space. These things have all been brought to you by the oligarchy families who controlled nearly everything as we came into the modern age. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, but nonetheless, it's true.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Sinclair, by the way, folks who want to Google that, Google Sinclair Clan, or Clan Sinclair, C-L-A-N. They are definitely fall into that royalty category.
Well, you say clan, so that also probably implies Scotland. Jason and I just did a show on blood types, and that would be one of the hot spots for the Rh negative blood factor. This all has to do with that as well. Anyone realizes, I sure should realize, the idea behind what the Rh factor in your blood that is positive means. It's supposed to be some relationship to monkeys. They cite the rhesus macaque in this research. In other words, people who are Rh negative have no relationship to monkeys. People who are Rh positive do. There's that whole idea going on. But I beg to differ. You can make the claim all day long that certain human beings are more special than others, but I think we've come far enough through history to understand that human beings are special and have some sort of a divine spark. But nonetheless, yeah, you have families like Sinclair acting like they're better than everyone else, and it probably has directly to do with an Rh negative blood type, probably O type blood as well.
I agree with you that everybody is equal. It just depends on what you've allowed other people to convince you is reality. Do you believe, or I think you do, that they can't really do anything to us without our permission, and if they tip their hat in whatever way they do subtly, that we're giving them permission by not saying no, because they have the keys to the bombers and the jet fighters and the keys to the internet and the food supply. They could always just turn it off, or do they have to get our permission first?
Of course they do. There's a thing called free will. That's what's unique to human beings. And the apparent rules of the game is that your free will cannot be infringed on. That's why so much time is taken to get your mind to believe in fantasy. So most of the damage that's done, you've actually done to yourself. You agree into these things. The proof of this is in things like the straw man identity. Anyone listening can pull out their ID card and look at their name at the top of that ID card. It's written all in capital letters. The reason for that is because it's a corporation that was set up on the day you were born. You can actually go look up the listing for the stock that is being traded in your name. You can look up on the internet how to do that. Here's my point. They created this corporate straw man identity that holds your name in all capital letters so that you can be compelled to do things. But if you do not accept that idea and recognize that you're just a human being, you can no longer be compelled to do things. They cannot force a human being to do things against free will, or they're going to have a cause and effect or karma problem. This has to do with Talmudic law, probably. But there it is. These are things that people can look at. Every person listening to this that has an identification where their name is listed in capital letters had a corporation set up on the day they were born. You can go look up that corporation, go on YouTube and see how to do it.
I've looked into that a lot, and I totally agree. I used to think it's just because they were yelling at us.
Well, in a way they kind of are, aren't they? They're yelling so loudly we're believing in things that are completely unbelievable.
Before we shift to any other subject, I wanted to point out one other thing that is a common trait with a lot of this. You know, I mentioned a second ago the fact that dinosaurs, globe, space, it's all taught to our little children. But also, as we're talking, I was just realizing, I'm working on a presentation for an upcoming show that we're going to do here on the Flat Earth Podcast on magnetic declination. And, in my research for that over the last week or so, you come across two main names. One, which a lot of people will know, and that's Edmund Halley, or Haley, the guy that the comet is named after. And the other one was William Gilbert. But lo and behold, when you trace the history of these guys, or the past of these guys, they're all royalty. And, it's just amazing. You look back at all this stuff, and it's another common trait. Oh, where are we getting every discovery or theory about all this stuff from dinosaurs to globe to I mean, it's a big round magnet. It's all coming from, the kings and queens of a few hundred years ago.
It has always come from the people who held power. You can even look today, anyone who wants to look up, well, how do you get your textbooks for school? In this country, if I'm not mistaken, and I didn't look this up before I began to speak, I think it's someplace in Texas, is the central decider of what goes into textbooks. These are easily controlled mechanisms, but I would point out, we've come to a time when anytime the word Einstein is said, everyone says, oh, the greatest thinker of all time. Well, no. Einstein was not the greatest thinker of all time. You've just never challenged the idea. What Einstein was put here to do was to get you to believe in fantasy. He spun a fantasy because there were people like Michelson and Morley and others who had actually shown you something real about the world. The idea of ether is a good example. Michelson and Morley showed that there had to be an ether because light travels to your eye. And for a wave to travel to your eye, it has to travel through something. And these people and others did experiments to prove that ether was real. This is from an older alchemical idea time. What Einstein did was he was put on the stage to just make the edict. He never did an experiment or explained in any way why there was no ether. He simply showed up, was labeled the smartest man in the world, and said there's no ether. I'm not kidding. Look back, look it up. Michelson and Morley did light experiments where they split a beam of light. They shot one of the beams in the direction the Earth had just spun from, and the other beam in the direction it was spinning to. What they proved is it's not true. There was no difference in the timing in the split light beam. This is why we got Einstein. Einstein was put on the stage, this Jewish scientist. By the way, I would point out that every single scientist that was on the supposed nuclear, Oppenheimer, all the people, all of them are Jewish. Why is that? Is it just that Jewish people are so much smarter than all the rest of us, or is there something going on here? And I would suggest to you that what you're looking at is the oligarch families inserting what they want you to accept as true into the timeline. You can go back and challenge these things, but the problem is that we've been trained so long that if the textbook says it, if the Hollywood movie echoes it, if television says it's true, that's what we accept. And I'm here to tell you, we're coming on a new age now, and it's time to challenge all these things.
A little while ago, jumping tracks here, you said Antarctica is not how it's been described to us. Totally agree. What also is not as it's described, in my opinion, is the North Pole, and it's just like nukes, where we were, shown that house blowing up with the trees going over. Everybody in school, and I bet you remember this, Crow, was shown those guys that took the dog sleds to the North Pole and they're freezing, they got ice in their beard, and I always wondered, how is the cameraman filming this, and then they got to the North Pole and there was nothing but a blizzard and 160 degrees below zero, and basically they just programmed everybody to say, oh, I never want to go there. Right. And then the whole world is like, why would you ever want to go to the North Pole? Because everybody saw that video.
Well, it's funny. Go on Google Maps and look at the North and South Pole. It's like Google Mars. For some reason, there's is this not right? It's like, really? Someone took a picture of this and this is what it looked like? Not to mention that, if the North Pole was as it was described, you would see endless airplane footage, wouldn't you? Someone would always be flying over saying, hey man, this is cool. Here's the very pole, the northern pole of our world. What's actually going on is the North Pole appears to be the center of everything, and the older ideas, you never go wrong looking back at the oldest ideas, man. If you want to try to start to get a handle on things, try to go back and look at the oldest ideas, but what we're told, the Vikings, the tree, the Yggdrasil tree, or the Buddhist idea or Indian idea of Mount Meru, this is probably much more closely related to what we call the North Pole actually is. It's just the center of things. And if you want to go down to the South Pole, good luck. Because I just reviewed the movie High Jump out of Hollywood, of course, where the Navy almost died getting there. You couldn't possibly get there because the Navy almost died getting there. And by the way, if you go beyond the South Pole, did you know that there is more land than the United States and Europe put together, and more resources than anyone ever knew? This is what they were pushing in the 50s. Well, if all that's true, here we are past the year 2000. Why haven't we heard about these things? Go look at your map. Look at how everything in Antarctica was named. after a prince, after a king, after some royal family, and to top it off, we have something like 52 nations guarding the coast. Why? Because it is key to understanding the true description of this world we live in. That is why. And you can't go there if you wanted to.
It's funny you guys brought that up because in that same line of my research over the last week or so on magnetic declination, I found an article in The Guardian from 2011, which talks about Robert Peary and Frederick Cook, the two guys that were on the race in 1909 to go to the North Pole. And I pulled a quote out of it for the upcoming show on magnetic declination. I'll read it really quick, but it says, within weeks of each other, in 1909, the two rival U.S. explorers, Peary and Cook, announced that they had led two separate expeditions to the North Pole. However, neither man's claim is accepted today. So poor was their proof of arrival, and so incredible were their speeds with which they claimed to have traveled over the ice, that no one believes it nowadays in science. Even at the time, there were lots of mutterings. Both were backed by rival New York newspapers, it was noted. And you look at something like that, and it's like, okay, we're gonna push. We've got to seal this globe model shut. And what did they do? They sent the two guys up there. Their coordinates, their speeds, everything was off. If they really would have went to the North Pole, and it turns out they did not.
Well, the model that we've been handed by NASA, which I mentioned earlier in Hebrew, means to deceive. That's what NASA means. The space agencies in this world exist for one reason: to ensure that you don't understand a damn thing above the blue sky you can see. That's why the space agencies exist. During the 4 years solid of telescope work, where I'm using these very high-end precision equipment, very good cameras, 8-inch, 12-inch, 11-inch telescopes, one of the things you do if you want to take still photographs of the night sky is you align to what's called the pole star, or Polaris. And this is where it all began to fall apart for me, because we're told that we're spinning, the Earth is spinning on its axis faster than the speed of sound, that it's going around the sun many times the speed of a rifle bullet, that the sun is going around a galaxy many times the speed of a rifle bullet, that galaxy is spinning around in ever-expanding space at something like 1,000,000 times the speed of a rifle bullet, all these things. But what dawned on me one day as I was aligning my scope to the pole star was that after I had that perfect polar alignment, I could point at any star, which we're told are hundreds of thousands of light years away, and open my camera shutter for half a minute, even a minute in some cases, without getting streaking stars. Meanwhile, we're told that the Earth's orbit around the sun is elliptic, and all these other things that go into it, and it began to dawn on me, none of this is true. It can't be. It's not possible. This is physical proof that none of this is true. And again, it doesn't give us a new map or a description that's more accurate, but it does in fact tell us that the oligarchy family model, the NASA model, is complete nonsense.
So you back up.
Yeah, I was about to say, back up.
Back up. You got the star, the North Star, in focus. Then you move it to another star, and you're saying that star doesn't move over a period of time.
Here's when you do what's called a polar alignment on it. Okay, so if I just took a telescope and put it on its flat stand and went and filmed the moon over 3 hours, or held the shutter open, the moon would spin in comparison to the telescope. Now, if I take the telescope and put what's called a wedge on it and then align it to the pole star, now the telescope is spinning like we are told the world and the sky above are. What's actually going on is the telescope is moving like the sky above. It has nothing to do with the world. But we're told that it is shifting on the same axis as the world we're standing on. So now, if I go hold my shutter open on the moon, the scope is turning in the same way the sky appears to turn from my point of view. What that allows me to do is to go find like a nebula and open my camera shutter for an extended period of time to collect more light on a still without getting smearing and streaking. Do you follow?
I think
so. Okay, let me just make sure I get it. So you're saying, like, when you put the wedge on it, you're saying it basically locks onto the moon, for instance, and moves at the same quote-unquote speed that the Earth will, so that it keeps it in frame, correct?
So I'm doing a poor job of describing this. The wedge is actually based on the supposed, tilt of our world that we're told in the globe model. What's happening is the scope will track across the sky and turn, not only track from left to right, but turn like in a circle as the stars appear to be above us. So in the same way, when you look at the moon, if something was at 12 o'clock on the moon, over time it will rotate, right? The scope is rotating in that same exact fashion. Look up polar alignment for a better description than I just gave you.
I got you. So, but essentially what woke you up was when you locked it onto Polaris, and tell me again, so you didn't see any streaks, you said? Or
no,
trails?
so you use Polaris as an alignment tool, but then you go look at other parts of the sky. But when you hold that shutter open to your camera, none of the stars streak. And you begin to put together, wait a minute, if everything's in elliptical orbits and we're in an ever-expanding universe and all this is going on, how is it possible that this star that I'm holding a camera frame open on is not streaking when it is supposed to be 250,000 light years away from me? It just, none of it logically works.
I totally get it now. I know what you're saying. I get it.
Hey, so let's just jump to the ISS for a minute. The ISS appeared in our sky, supposedly they built it, was it 1980 something? Early 80s? What the hell is it?
Well, it's a light. There is a light there.
I use that line all the time. You're looking at a light.
Yeah. I have never personally been able to track it well enough with a telescope or something that magnifies that hard to get a good picture. There are people out there who have claimed to, and what they show is an object that looks much like we would expect it to look to, but that's not good enough for me. Until I know the person who did it and I trust them, or until I do it myself, I'm not buying that cup of tea. I have seen the light. I do understand that it's close to the scheduled recording of when we should see it, but here's the problem. Everything we've ever been shown or told about the ISS doesn't hold water. It's all nonsense when you logically begin to break it down.
No, it does hold water. I've seen them. They bounce the bubbles around. It holds
Well,
water.
actually, what it does is hold out the water. But yeah, they're filming it in a pool most of the time, or some of it's been done on parabolic arc airplanes, what they call the vomit comet. I opened up talking about the 2 International Space Station clips that got struck for copyright claims by YouTube, and I thought, wait a minute, NASA doesn't have copyrights on any of its stuff unless otherwise stated, and here, lo and behold, Believe Entertainment holds the copyright on International Space Station astronaut footage. And I'm like, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, then I don't know what does. Believe Entertainment holds the copyright.
Yeah, because I was always under the impression that all NASA footage was public fare. It was open.
So was I. I actually looked that up on WikiCommons, but nonetheless, I can show you the copyright strike, and I fought one of them and have won, so now I'm fighting the other, where I said, wait a minute, guys, I am critiquing this footage, and that will suffice under fair use. So they allowed me to reinstate the first one, but it does not eliminate the true fact that the people who put the copyright strike against me is Believe Entertainment. Look them up. Not.
Hey, so before 1980, whatever, when they built it, was there a light up there that nobody was noticing, or is it something that has arrived?
I would only be able to guess, and that's not really good enough in the game we're playing. We're asking people to go out and use direct observation. The problem here, well, there's lots of problems. I mean, even if, here's one for people. Go onto a search engine and look up the speed you're told a rocket launch has to go to escape Earth's gravity. Okay? Look up the speed of a rocket.
17,500 miles per hour.
Now go look up the speed of a 30-06 bullet.
Yeah, okay? I know. It's utter nonsense. Think about this. For a rocket to get to 17,500 miles per hour, that means that the gases that are shooting out the bottom of it have to be coming out at 17,500 miles per hour at a minimum to get it to that speed. I don't think that that's even a possibility, that you can have something it combusting that fast?
Everything, when you start to apply logic, everything begins to fall apart. And the real problem becomes most people think, well, I've got to be wrong because all these guys at NASA are telling me I'm not. But here, I'll actually do it right now. Let me look up rifle bullet speed. Muzzle velocity. Oh, they're going to make it hard. See, they don't want people to look it up now. They're going to give you, oh, you know what I need? I need, unfortunately, a different search engine because I no longer use Google. Because they want to track me and blackjack me. Okay, so here we go. You're looking at more than 1,200 meters per second. So if we were going to do a translation into miles per hour, let's just cut to the chase. We're told the rockets go faster than the speed of a 30-06 bullet. Do you think a person could sit on the front of a 30-06 bullet? Do you think that's a possible thing?
Test pilots are passing out at just a couple times the speed of sound.
There's a good point right there. I was in the Marine Corps, and I actually had a friend who was a pilot that we used to play music with in a band when he was around. And he described to me some of the implementations in the plane that he flew to keep them from passing out when they had to go through a couple of G's. They have these suits that they wear that squeeze their legs so that the blood doesn't drain out of their head. They're taught a breathing technique, and they're taught how to squeeze their muscles. And this is only with a couple G's. And so, just none of it logically holds up. And
if I may quote you, it's utter nonsense.
It's beyond utter nonsense, man. And there's no cow involved here, so no one's getting any milk out of this deal.
So I heard recently that, I forget who it was, maybe Japan or China is talking about putting up their own space station. Do you know anything about that?
No, but it wouldn't surprise me because that stupid movie Gravity, right? Didn't every country in existence all of a sudden have a space station up there?
So this is my theory. I have absolutely no proof, and it's just something to look into to see if we can find any evidence of it. Nobody seems to remember if the light that we call the International Space Station existed before the International Space Station. So perhaps whatever these luminaries are, they are appearing above us for a reason. And perhaps the elite know that another big one is coming, and they're going to have the story that there's another space station up there. Like the returning of the gods, or for lack of a better word, these luminaries, I believe, it is my belief, and I'll say that, that they are sentient in some way. It's just a theory I have.
I don't know, man. I can't back any of that, Dave. I've gotten to the point where I just try to keep it to what I can observe and logically work out. But I can say this. If you go get a good telescope and a good camera, and you film the full moon every chance you get over a period of years, you will discover what many people who followed in my footsteps have discovered. There's these little black, roundish objects that are up there all the time. Not always so easy to film them, but there's lots of them. And to put this into context, there are mathematicians out there that have demonstrated that if in fact there were anywhere from 15 to 30,000 satellites, which there are not, which we've been told, that we would expect to see a transit of the moon multiple times any given 3-hour period. What we in fact find is that if we film the moon nonstop almost every time we can, we will film these little transiting objects at different sizes and speeds. There are something up there, much closer than we've been told. They're in our atmosphere. And I proved this by using an optics expert to take the actual physical distance value of a pixel and calculate it out for the system I was using. For them to be in geosynchronous orbit, they'd be 4 or 5 times the size of the ISS, or 3 times. It's some ridiculous number. They're much closer. In knowing this, we're guessing that maybe they're balloons or something. They look black and round, most of them. There is something up there, and this may play into communications or who knows, but there are objects that seem to be up there all the time.
Speaking of objects up there, that was one of the things early on in my flat earth research that was kind of a light bulb. When I grew up in our books and when we studied in class the Cold War, right? How we landed on the moon, but Russia was the first ones to put Sputnik up, and I read it in my books. I've seen documentaries where they said that people saw, they knew when it was going to pass. They would go outside and they would see it with their naked eye, Sputnik passing. And when I finally was doing the research on Flat Earth, I looked it up and it was like, whatever it was, 100 miles high. And I looked up the size and Sputnik's 20 inches wide.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
It's like a little bigger than that. Yes, it's like a basketball and a half size wide, right?
Good, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and so something, but again, kind of to bring it back to what we were just talking about, they were seeing something. I don't doubt the grandparents of people who say they saw Sputnik or whatever. I think they saw a light, but what was that light?
I doubt them. I doubt them. It's like anything else. Have you ever seen a dinosaur? If you ask that question to enough people, you're going to have a lot of people say, yeah, man, I've been to museums. I've seen the remnants of dinosaurs. Well, in fact, no, they haven't. What you're looking at is media accounts. Not only that,
that's true.
During the whole Sputnik thing, you're told that I think it's the Marconi brothers, of all people, picked it up on their radio or some nonsense. Marconi ends up being, part of the Naval Radio Global Transmission Center in 1917 or whatever. It's all the oligarch families controlling the technology that comes to bear. I don't buy any... Nothing, in my view, nothing leaves what is called our atmosphere. So many people like to point to the Truman Show, but let me tell you something. They may be poking you in the eye with something that's not too far from the truth. And all the observation and research and logical deduction I have done, nothing is leaving here, man. We've never seen a picture of anything from space that isn't debunkable. I've got video after video showing why the Earth images are false, why the Pluto images, why the joke we landed on a comet stuff is nonsense. There's some kind of a hard, fast barrier up there, and if that's correct, well, I got news for you. Sputnik is ridiculous. And I've even seen quotes from the Royal Astronomical Society of people claiming that the idea of rockets is simply a waste of time. What would even be the point? Why would they say something like that?
Your show on the landing on the comet, what was the name of that comet again?
Rosetta Philae.
Yeah, the Rosetta Philae, that whole thing. Another worth the money. Just to download that one episode right there.
It's awesome.
Yeah, worth the money. $5. Come on. The one last thing on the ISS. Recently, we had a really good Passover on a really clear night, and I was able to get it in the telescope lens focus for a second or two. What I saw was literally as bright as the sun. It was like a little piece of the sun. Not saying that it was a piece of the sun. I'm just saying it was bright, bright as like the brightest star ever. And it whizzed by, and that was the end of it. And so many people say, you can see it, therefore it is. Like it's just a light. But I've run this analysis up before, but for someone who's listening for the first time, it's approximately the same size as the 747 at cruising altitude. The 747 is literally the size of an eraser tip on your pencil held at arm's length. And that's just, and then you double that distance. You got a 747 10 feet over your head, it's gigantic. It's a football field. You put it up at cruising altitude, and it's the size of an edge of an eraser held at arm's length. If you doubled that distance, would you be able to see it, even if you could see it through the amount of atmosphere? The answer is no, but the space station is 25 times higher.
It's complete nonsense, but they've kind of spun this tale that you're looking at the light refracting off it. That's how they're getting around. But it's not even really getting around, because what you just stated, for a common sense mind to take apart, these things are not common sense. These are not things you can just believe in. They're just things that you're told that you choose to believe in. Can you see anything at 200 and whatever miles? Yeah.
That's what I was about to say, Crow. If you built the ISS, the 747 wide ISS, out of a light itself,
you find something for me?
One big light, I still don't think you'd see it at that distance.
Well, what I always wanted to do was get on a massive mountain somewhere that overlooked a freeway, so that I could take a picture of like an 18-wheeler semi at 50 miles or something, and show what a semi truck looks like at 50 miles. It looked like an ant You know, and that's 50 miles, but you can't do it because the atmosphere, of course, looking up, you're looking through less and less atmosphere, but my point is come on, man, come back to reality, people. Can you see anything at near 300 miles?
I was on a pretty high hilltop, so my horizons were pretty far away, and I saw this thing come from horizon to horizon. So, talk about looking through less atmosphere, I was looking through the most amount of atmosphere, and I could see it clearly.
Yeah,
that
so
proves that it's close.
It's definitely not that distance, no.
Well, the other problem with it is when you see it, it stays evenly lit the whole time you see it. And what you're supposed to believe is that the panels are refracting light to your eye, and that's not the way it works. You can look at a jumbo jet when it gleams in the sun. You see what happens. It gets really bright, and then it gets to a new position. But that's not the way it works. And, you know, I too have seen the light they call the ISS. Not quite horizon to horizon, but that was the one thing that struck me. It looked like it's just evenly lit, and that's not how light reflection on camels works.
And where is the light refracting from? Because if you're seeing it in the night sky, isn't that the opposite side of the sun?
You got to buy into the NASA spinning everything model.
It's like 150 miles up to the surface of the Earth.
200.
So it's 250. So it's like literally like a piece of paper wrapped around a basketball, right? I mean, it's that low to the ground, and yet somehow it's reflecting sunlight from the daylight side of the Earth.
Well, you're being asked to believe that it's high enough up there that it has a clear shot at sunlight.
Right. It's just so many things about it are preposterous.
Well, but it's real, man.
Well, let's put this into context, okay? Let's put this into context. Let's use an example like, let's take an old VW van, all right? And we're gonna put 2 people in that VW van. We're going to give them running water. We're going to give them food and everything they need. And we're even going to give them a way to go to the bathroom and get it out of the van, okay? We're going to do all these things. But they're not coming out of that van for 6 months, okay? What would the inside of that van be like after, a week? And I mean, come on, man. Use some common sense here. The ISS is nonsense.
There's a girl that did a video. She's a big chemtrail, video engineering activist that did a video about how crazy the bathroom is on the ISS.
Yeah.
It's literally one of the funniest videos I've seen on it. It's nonsense. I mean, imagine trying to keep that thing clean. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, that's the clip I got yanked is because this lady, this female astronaut's showing them how they wash their hair in space, and she's flinging water all over the place. You ever seen pictures of that place? Yeah. There's computers and wires and all. She's just flinging that water around.
She's wringing the towel out.
I made that video of the blonde doing her hair, and I showed all the cuts that people didn't see because they were little flashes. And then you took it a step farther. It was,
Mission for you,
that one
if you're
is
up
one
to
of my
it.
favorites.
That's the one that got. I didn't realize you ever did. That's the actual video you just described is the one that got copyright struck.
Wow. Mine's
Yeah,
pretty low.
And speaking of the distance with the ISS thing, there's a guy who did a video where, very simple, I'm not very good at Google Earth, so I couldn't do it myself because I couldn't figure out how to measure your altitude with the camera. But all he did was go on Google Earth and found like a football field.
Legendary,
And
really?
he starts raising the camera up until it's out of sight, and it's at like 2 miles.
It's not 2 miles, but it was pretty darn close.
Something very low. Yeah,
it wasn't even getting to any good distance.
Well, I don't even think it was getting to like what do you call it, commercial airline height.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
It was gone, out of sight. But yet we can see it at 250 miles up.
Well, I started doing a similar thing with the moon in Google Earth. There's a supposed crater on the moon called Aristarchus. It's that little white dot you can see when the moon is near full. It's roughly 40 miles in diameter, so I went into Google Earth and I put a 40-mile white circle on the Earth, and I zoomed up to the 40,000 feet or 40,000 miles it allows, and you can't see it. And although it is only a software representation of reality, the moon would be 5 or 6 times further. And this is a naked eye object. We're told we're seeing this 40-mile in diameter crater over 250,000 miles away.
The Flat Earth Park. It's not the Flat Flat Earth billboard to date? With a gathering, have a ticket to the show? Just
now they're rediscovering Jupiter and all the sky and telescope moves. I forget what the distance to Jupiter is, like 500 million miles or something like that. I forget. But NASA was releasing all these pictures of Jupiter, so I took my 8-inch telescope out in my backyard and I took pictures. And I started comparing the quality of what I was producing on the moon to what NASA was showing people, and I asked the question, at what point does my no-budget backyard cinematography have to get its butt royally kicked by what NASA's producing? And it's not what we see, but here's the rub. Is it common sense to imagine that I can take an 8-inch telescope in my backyard and film a thing that's 500 million miles away and its 4 biggest moons and get good images? That's not a... No. I mean, come on. And actually, because I know people are going to always check me. Jupiter distance. Jupiter distance is, well,
like Mars is 50. What is Jupiter?
I think it's like 500 million, but I gotta always check because I don't think about these things all the time. And I'll tell you what, man, DuckDuckGo or whatever it's called is a cool, man. It's 500 now. Look at Mars, 588 million kilometers. So it's 365 million. That's interesting. 365 million miles away. Go figure. Yeah, it's all nonsense, man.
So I have a question for you, Crow.
Exquisite kill.
Maybe you can help me with this, because I got into a discussion with someone who called in. I was doing an episode of Jaren's show, Raw, 4 or 5 months ago, and a guy called in, and he was taking exception with everything we were saying, because he was saying, well, obviously, we know these distances of the stars, and blah, blah, blah. And I said to him,
yeah, Rising Line's deserted, but there should be a barista.
He came from an astronomy background of some sorts. And I said, well, how do we know, like, what is the difference between a telescope and a microscope? And I was throwing it out there in discussion in the quote unquote debate we were having, without really even knowing the answer. But I was asking, I was like, how do we know that, it's not just magnifying something? I mean, if we looked into a leaf in a microscope, and we see the little dots that we can't see with the naked eye, we don't deduce that, oh, that little dot is 200 million miles away. We say, no, it's just really small and we're blowing it up. So I wanted to ask you that, Crow, because you've worked with telescopes and worked with astronomy for a while. Is there a difference between a telescope and a microscope? Or are they both just magnifying what is there?
Well, yeah, there's a difference, certainly. Most microscopes I've seen have multiple elements. There's all different manner of scopes. So the scopes I use are basically folding light with mirrors and then going to an eyepiece. There is a difference, but here's what I would point out. The people who put these constructs in place are very darn intelligent people, and there are mathematics to back everything we're talking about. And that's how science runs away with, you people don't know what you're talking about. This equation proves that we're telling you the truth. When in fact, direct observation, if you take the time to use direct observation, you will come up with all kinds of problems with the description. There is a difference between looking at something small and looking at something far, because you would have to consider the distance of a focal plane and all these other things, the type of magnification device you're using. I would have to give it some thought. But the point that you are alluding to is a valid one. How in the hell do you know that a star is so many hundreds of thousands of light years? Well, what they're telling you is this thing called redshift, and they use all these other fancy science terms. I'm here to tell you it's all nonsense. These things are much, much closer. They have to be. For things like polar alignment and then holding shutters open, the spinning orbital models cannot be correct. And that sets aside what we learned from like the last solar eclipse, where we can basically demonstrate that the moon doesn't play any role in a solar eclipse.
Go ahead, Dave.
The concept of a light day, when you think about it, is utter nonsense. It's ridiculous. the sun is 8 light minutes away. So if it was 8 times as far, that's a light hour. Okay, right? Yeah. That's a light hour. If it was 8 times as far, look how small it is at 8 light minutes away. It's the size of a freaking dime held at arm's length. You know, and then we're talking light years, hundreds of. It's just nonsense.
Well, what you just pointed out is, is another logical application of the human mind demonstrating that if something was 250,000 light years away, not only would you not be able to detect it, it would have been undetectable a hell of a lot closer than that.
The question about the telescope and microscope to that guy that he called in. Obviously, his first retort was what you just said, was the math works, the math works. He started quoting math and the figures of distances and sizes. And I said, okay, so time out. I said, if I were to go to a wall, a very large, let's say a flat side of a building, and I were to paint it black, and on that wall, I would paint a whole bunch of white dots at different sizes. Some of them are going to be like really, really small. Some of them the size of a baseball. Some of them a basketball. And then I go about a quarter mile down the road. I get my P900. I zoom in. And the more I zoom, the smaller dots I'll be able to see. Now, if I established, if I told you that one of those dots was X number of miles away, wouldn't you therefore then start calculating all the other ones?
So Jay, let me tell you, I remember hearing that, and I took the deep field photograph. I was in another argument with some baller, and he's talking about
we'll keep it separate from the others.
Video, traveling through space, and I made a video. I took I just put it into iMovie. I took the deep field picture, and then I did a Ken Burns effect where it zoomed in, into across it into one corner, and I said, and I threw it out at him, and I said,
wow.
This is
you
fake.
Really just
What makes you think it's real? And he gives me all the reasons that it's real. And basically what I did, I did just what a microscope would do.
I get it.
I zoomed in on a flat image and made it look 3D.
Yeah,
so I
think you might
Little Robbie or Little... I don't know any of that crap. I don't know anybody like that.
The distance from this to the baseball-sized dot is, and the size of that baseball is, if I tell you the size and distance for one of those dots, wouldn't you then be able to calculate mathematically the size and distances to all of them? But when in fact, they're all just 2D, one distance dots on a flat black backdrop?
Well, that points out the problem with math, doesn't it? Math can describe
Nolan,
anything, right?
Nolan, I don't know who that is.
And make it look like it's empty with math. Not only that, we know certainly that all the modern day physics is built up on nonsense where there's an infinite amount of possible universes, and in one of them, I'm a clown who won't chew gum. These are actual ideas from physics. It's nonsense. It's fantasy. It's completely fantasy-based nonsense, and it has no application in a reality-based world. But yet, these are the things that we're convinced. It's like the Big Bang. Really? Really?
Yeah, I know.
These are theories.
And that one is taught in school books.
Well, no, gravity is too. They just claim to have found gravity waves not too long ago. And so if they found gravity waves, then I guess gravity is no longer a theory, right? Well, go back to Michelson and Morley. They demonstrated why gravity is nonsense. You know why the brick falls through there? Because it's heavier. It's pretty simple. But now we get all this.
I don't know who that is.
It's always going to fall to the center of the Earth, regardless of where you are on the plane. And if you take the inverse of the vortex on the perigee, it's all this kind of white coat nonsense wrapped around everything, when in fact, if we drop something in water, we can easily deduce that it is denser and heavier, which is why it is falling through the water. There are people who precede Einstein who had all kinds of things to say and to demonstrate about these ideas, and yet the person we listen to is Einstein, and for some of the things he dismisses, there is no experiment, there is nothing more than an edict that Einstein utters, and the idea that ether doesn't exist is one of the things Einstein dismissed without ever showing any reason or experiment to demonstrate it.
Time to fight!
So, Crow, you've been talking about, you used the example of, I forget what show it was, because it was
Puppy Lady,
a long time ago, that
that.
real adult mind
Was
he's
that?
not like an intelligent, higher-minded person, and he's challenged us to find that a similar character in any space television program. Which character?
You're close. This is what I said.
Oh, shit.
If you go back and look at the original Hawaii Five-0 with the chief character, Jack Lord, who plays McGarrett in Hawaii Five-0, will appear to you as acting more adult, like an adult. When you look at him, you'll get the sense, now there's an adult, you know, there's someone, you know, you get what I'm saying. Now go into modern-day television and try to find his counterpart, and you can't do it. It can't be done.
The dumbing down of television is beyond, you know, I've heard, you know, television's mind control, sports are, you know, it's like the Roman pad, and I kind of laughed it off, but it's 100% true. There's nothing off about that statement. And I just wanted to talk about, you know, how evil television is, and talk a little bit about that.
Well, television exists for one reason. It's controlled by the same old, most powerful families, the oldest families in our world, who had all the money. They bought all the systems that mattered. Among them were the communication systems. Places like Tavistock have flat out documented that the purpose for modern day mass media, radio, cinema, and television was going to be used to lower the human mind to infantile animalistic levels. They even set benchmarks that we can look up. One of the benchmarks was we will be able to measure how much damage we've done to the modern mind when adults have reached such an infantile mindset that their children will no longer recognize their authority because they see the infantile mindset that they too possess at that point, both the adult and the child having that infantile mindset. These were benchmarks set by Tavistock, but it's not hard to demonstrate. You know, I just talked about this recently on some other thing I did, where if you take the most popular shows on TV reach the most minds and therefore will contain usually some of the most blatant programming. Take The Big Bang Theory, very popular show, reaches many, many minds. What are you being presented with there? The best and the brightest among us. These people have PhDs, the highest educated. One of the main characters, there may be 3 minds like his in the world in any given generation. And yet, what are they interested in? They're interested in comic books, going to Comic-Con. They're interested in telling you how awesome Star Trek is. They're interested in telling you, oh my God, the new Star Wars is about to come out and I'm going to wet my pants. They are infantile in their supposed adult minds, and these are the examples that are being put out. My father was a PhD. When I was a child, I remember his colleagues. They didn't collect comic books. They didn't sleep with Ewok dolls. They didn't go to Comic-Con. They were higher-minded adults who were highly educated, and that's not what you're being presented with. And that's one of an endless litany of examples we could pull from TV, but it's a pretty powerful one. Let's face it, on Big Bang, you are being shown people working at a major university at the highest levels of education who basically conduct themselves like children. During the Tavistock and the other social programming and the onset of TV episodes Jason and I have done on Pro777radio.com, this is how it works. And you'd be surprised, Tavistock is in every production facility there is. This is how it works. So some 30 to 40-ish-year-old kids produce a very simplistic language idea for a show. At some point it gets greenlighted forward to the point where it's getting to producers and directors. At that point, before it goes to film or to be actually created, what's called, I'm going to draw a blank on what they're called, advisors. Advisors on almost everything are brought in. As an example, on a show like Barney, the advisor would be trained by the Tavistock School, and he would be a child psychologist. And they are the people who insert the programming, the necessary programming as it's going to be cut to film. If you dissect this, there could be cases where the director, or the producer for that matter, don't fully understand what's being put in because they don't have the background of the person that they've hired to recommend to them, to advise them. But this goes on everywhere, in every country, that there is a Hollywood-like setup. And it's documented, it's been shown, and it shows the insidious nature of what became of the work of people like Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, before the turn of the 1900s.
Back in the 1800s, places like the Frankfurt School, which proceeded and ended up partnering up with the Tavistock Institute. People don't understand the scope of these things. There's nary a person in a powerful position these days that has not gone through training provided by the Tavistock School. In my lifetime, people like Kissinger, who had a meteoric rise, very quick, very high. Kissinger went. He was schooled by Tavistock. These things are part and parcel of the controlling elements of our world. It's just that most of us don't see them and don't pay attention. I hear you, Pete. But whenever you're looking at television, places like Tavistock who are interested solely in social programming have had their way with the content. To put this into context for people, what was called the greatest generation would probably be the grandparents or great-grandparents, depending on your age of people listening now. The generation that's referring to are the people who lived at the onset of World War II, who were born before the advent of television. There are documents from the Tavistock Institute pointing out that this would be the hardest generation to control because of their higher mindset, because they had lived before the onset of the mass communication that was going to be brought to bear. These are all things people can look into, but I don't want to talk there with too much.
No, it's all good stuff. So let's wrap all this together, and we'll bring it to an end shortly. All of these things that we're talking about, NASA, the Flat Earth, the Vegas event, I'll say it, not afraid to say it, all of these other deceptions, these things are erased from history. I think that you have coined the modern day book burning. I predict in 10 or 20 years, Building 7 will never have existed in New York.
Well, this becomes infinitely more possible each step we take towards digital life, because if you have a hard copy of a book, that's very difficult to change. But once the information becomes digital, it's very easy to change. Incredibly easy to change. But the modern day book burning is in fact going on. In the same way that we see videos censored or deleted from YouTube accounts or entire channels, you've got to realize that no matter what any person did, said, filmed, or put up on YouTube, it is an accurate representation of some portion of this world now. 300 years from now, if people went back to look at those clips, there would be an actual, true historical value regardless of what the content was. And what we see is these corporations deciding what stays and what goes. And this is in fact the precursor to a modern day book burning. It's not even a precursor, it's going on now. And as you point out, it will control the narrative in any number of ways if it is allowed to continue. Certainly Building 7 won't exist in some period of time. For that matter, any portion of history may not exist. Whatever they choose to leave will stay. Whatever they choose to remove will go. That's what a digital archive will allow people to do. In the same way Animal Farm changed the reality in 4 years, we probably won't be too far from that once everything is digital and no hard copies exist anymore.
That's a great meme, which I'll put in on the Facebook page when we post it. The films will last forever under the champion address on the internet. Well, they'll last forever if they tell the mainstream media's narrative.
Well, that was only, that came to light after we think that came to light after we started the modern day book burning. That almost seems like it's a response to the idea that we put out about the modern day book burning. After all, it opens with your films will last forever. Well, YouTube, I beg to differ. You censor, you delete, you close channels. That is not films lasting forever. So on the face of it, it's propaganda.
We didn't even talk about a certain topic that was really high on my list to talk to Crow about. So hopefully, maybe this went so well. I'd love to get you back on here,
Your
Crow,
dauntless leader is trapped in a
to talk about the weather stuff. Because my gosh, I've got some personal experience with that.
Yeah, the weather thing's crazy. It is quite possible we are living in an era where weather is scheduled and not forecasted anymore. We can certainly demonstrate, Jason and I have done the research and done the episodes, that weather manipulation has been going on probably since the 1800s, at least one form of weather manipulation or another. But anyhow, I'd be happy to come back on to say the word. Sounds like we're wrapping up now, which is okay because I've got to get on my way. But if we do this again, I'll be a little better off. I was up till 3 o'clock last night, so I was a bit off my cadence today.
No worries. You know, I just want to say that for people out there that still watch TV that haven't subscribed to Crow, how many episodes are up now? 78? Or
we're gonna do. Jason and I will be recording 80 on Wednesday.
So this is my suggestion. Unplug your TV, literally unplug it. Subscribe to Crow for $5. Download all 78 episodes and just listen to that for a couple of weeks. And if you don't start, realizing what is going on in this world, then you're probably part of the problem. But
well, let me interject there. Since YouTube started bombing cities or channels, I started to decentralize. I would like everyone to know that at crow777radio.com, every free hour of any podcast is available without a login. So if you've ever listened to my content for free on YouTube, it is running there on my website as an effort to get away from Google.
I say screw that. Pay the $5 and get both parts. It's like, hey, let me tell you a great story. What did the guy say when he went into the bar? Oh, sorry, can't tell you. You didn't pay the $5. Not that. The first. By the way, the first hour is phenomenal, and you get a ton of information out of it. But you're going to go, and by the time you get to 2 or 3 of them, you're going to go, oh, I got to hear the second half.
Yep.
It's $5 friggin' dollars. You ever buy anybody a beer? You ever go to Starbucks?
It's a latte.
Yeah,
it's a latte.
It's $5 friggin' dollars, man.
So
get over it.
Here's the thing.
I'm not done praising you, all right? All right, go ahead, you go.
Well, I got to stop you. You're going to give me an ego, then I'm going to have to start all over again.
Don't raise the price.
Here for another episode of the
You
Flatter
don't need
podcast.
to plan that. You'll do that anyway. Start the show.
Okay. Welcome back to another episode of the Flatter Podcast. I'm your co-host for now, Matt Long, and with me as always is Dave. Coming at you, Dave.
Fantastic summer.
I'd like to include you.
I can't see great, bro. I mean, you guys right now.
No, was not in Antarctica, as you remember, as you were. We didn't get a whole lot of snow here, but my son is still snowboarding in a foot power out west.
Credit to the pack.
And we're at a music festival this weekend. Beautiful, sunny, high 70s, and he FaceTimed me, in a foot of powder in the tops of the mountains.
Wow, that's amazing. One thing on the show, we usually get into a lot of different topics that are kind of relevant right this second to Flat Earth, but I want to establish at the beginning kind of some typical Flat Earth stuff that maybe a first-time listener or someone might have a question about. So I'm going to go through a few of these things. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, bring it.
Okay, great. So first thing is, well, aren't you going to fall off the edge? How come we can't fall off the edge of the Flat Earth, Dave?
The simple answer to that is, how come you don't fall off the edge of a lake? You get to the edge, there's the land. That's a misconception. I don't know where it comes from, whether it's the Flat Earth Society or just, programming of the Flat Earth being ridiculous. But you can't fall off the edge of the world lake, just like you can't fall off the edge of a regular lake.
Because of the shoreline.
There's a shoreline, and a lot of that shoreline is a cliff. A lot of people call it a wall. And it goes in for miles, but we don't know how many. We don't know where it goes. Does it go on forever, or does it hit a dome? I think, you and I probably are in the same camp that it probably hits some sort of enclosure, and we're not sure what's beyond that.
Now find a way to get inside and smash those Dogbots!
Nice.
Then free my baby bloodshot!
There was a point I was going to make, and I'm trying my best not to say, while I think about what point I was going to make. Oh, the fact that, you and I believe we're not moving, right?
There are many crimes about to be committed.
Realm here, right? Under a dome, because we're domers. Wouldn't it seem like it'd be easier to fall off a spinning ball than it would be a flat, motionless plane?
Not with gravity. Of course. Ballers will say, prove to me that the Earth is stationary flat, and you gotta flip it around and say, if you know nothing, you walk outside, you observe a deceptive a video, but
That's funny. So, let's talk about sunrise public.
Let them hear your rage.
Sets. Why is that not true?
that is my favorite question, as you know, and it involves a whole bunch of different things. There's not one reason that the sunset. Just like you're looking across the street, and there's a building, 5, 10 stories high, and which is the top of that building, in the distance is above the horizon. Fly over your head and fly down that building. You're going to see that plane. Imagine that plane as a ball, just set behind the building, right?
Correct.
That is setting due to perspective. Now you move that building farther and farther away, that angle is going to get lower and lower. We have the same thing when you're looking through tons and tons and tons of atmosphere, or miles and miles and miles of atmosphere. I call it the atmospheric obfuscation depth, or the cloud depth. But people, when you say it's just getting eclipsed behind the clouds,
I have acquired your kidnapped
what about on a
girlfriend?
clear day? Even on a clear day, miles and miles and miles and miles of atmosphere, of the thickest part of the atmosphere, which is the bottom 10,000 feet, let's say, becomes
Tumorhead finds out you killed
and
Bloodshine,
even
I'm a goner.
as short as
But I've
20
got an
miles,
idea. Grab her
that
mask.
10,000-foot deck merges with the horizon. And you can see that on a if you have a shot over water or whatever, where there's a very flat, where you're not blocked by anything for miles and miles and miles. On a cloudy day, a spotted cloud day, you can see the clouds, and as they move into the distance, over your head, you got to screen your neck, look straight up, and 20 miles away, you're looking at them, and they literally merge with the horizon. So again, you have your celestial object, the sun, moving above those clouds, just like an airplane, and as it goes beyond them, you get eclipsed by perspective.
Right. And I think people say, well, how come the sun doesn't shrink if it's moving away? Well, it's going through that thicker and thicker layer of atmosphere, correct?
So there's the optics of the sky are the most complicated, but really not that complicated. There's just a lot to it. One of the things is there's atmospheric magnification. Lensing magnification. So lots of experiments we can do with lenses and water and all sorts of stuff where as you move that light farther and farther away, even though it's shrinking due to perspective, it's being magnified and it kind of balances out. But not different conditions, different days, different situations will make it look different. The other thing is, I don't believe that we're actually seeing the sun travel at 12,000 miles from sunrise to sunset. I believe that we're seeing a personal atmospheric dome or pad, if you will. So you're inside of a soap bubble. You're in the center of a soap bubble. And again, it's a half bubble or a dome. It's a half bubble. That's the corner. Pointed out. And so you see the light climb up over the top and down. And if you think about it, that light that you see on that personal atmosphere dome is the same distance from you pretty much the entire time. And it's only when it reaches the bottom where it meets the land, the terrestrial surface, that it shrinks as it moves away and fades out.
You there, how are your last breaths go?
That or some land feature will eclipse it by then and make it look like it's getting
Another issue is with the sun, you're dealing with the celestial velocity. Not a terrestrial. For example, you have a boat that's sailing away from you on water. It would shrink because it's starting out at the same height. The sun is already tens or hundreds or thousands of miles above you, and as it goes away, it's already done most of the shrinking. Would you agree?
I would totally agree that the sun is tens or thousands a mile away. We don't know which one it is. I believe that the
somewhere
sun,
between a mile and
somewhere between a mile and
93 million.
No, it's definitely not that far. If I had to put it, I would put it between a mile and 50 miles.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
That's the sun that we see. It's optics in the sky. Everybody has their own personal relationship with the sun. UN also.
Okay, wow.
Yes, I'm still sitting!
The light of the world. Yeah. Okay, so, this kind of goes along with, not falling off the edge, but, a lot of people say, the Earth can be flat because people circumnavigate it, right?
Again, my favorite topic here. Circumnavigation has only happened going east or west, and east and west are circles around a center point. And a compass and a magnet will prove that. Nobody has ever circumnavigated the Earth heading south. Because when you head south, you just keep on going. There's no coming back.
Right, and what's interesting is you can even take some of those claimed north-south circumnavigations and plot it out on the flat Earth map, and it's still an interesting looking circle that actually still works on the flat Earth map. So, and again, when you're in Antarctica, per the last guy who trekked there, like your compass doesn't even work.
Podcast, guys, stuff explains a lot of details.
If you look at those course, what's the word I'm looking for? Those courses, those treks,
sure,
routes, those routes.
There we go.
I'm losing my words here.
King to Ka.
They do go around the world a bit, east and west, but then when they dip into Antarctica, they go to a certain point and then they double back, or they just cut across the edge of Antarctica, like going to the edge of a circular lake, traveling a few miles across the shoreline, and then jumping back out into the lake and saying that you've circumnavigated.
Right. So if you can imagine a pizza with different pieces on it, they basically go out to the crust, which would be Antarctica, and instead of continuing beyond the crust, they go to a piece of the crust on another piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And then back to the center.
There you go.
Tough to do without visuals.
I will include a playlist. Just going back to the sunsets, I have a great sunset playlist. I'll put that in the show notes. So anybody that wants to really try to understand how celestial objects set over the horizon, I believe that the playlist is quite telling.
Awesome. So before we get into kind of what we wanted to touch on the show, I wanted to address a rumor that Globebusters is breaking up over.
Where did you hear that?
I heard it right before we got on here, and I just figured we should address it. But it sounds like there was quite a feud between. It sounds like two camps, right? You got Bob Camp and Jaron Campanella. Does that work?
Campanella. Very good.
Yeah.
We're talking about the argument of, is there a downward force? Campanella is there's just not buoyant. He doesn't even like the word buoyancy. There's just relative density, and denser things go down, and down happens to be where the Earth is, and there's no force. Okay. Bob, on the other hand, says
Camp Nodell.
Yeah, Camp Nodell says that there is an attraction, not due to mass and gravity, but they're calling it gravity just because everyone's used to that term. But there is a weak force, an electrostatic magnetic force that establishes a down. Just for your information, I am definitely in Camp Nodell. Jaron and I went at it at TFR, going back and forth. I accused him of being a shill, and I basically had I had a lot of fun with it. First, I want to point out, though, that no matter what, whether we agree, if we come to agreement, we change camps or not, this argument does not affect the shape of the Earth. It's just the question is there a downward force, or is it just relative density? What do you, first, before I get into it, and I'll make this short anyway, what camp are you in?
Ooh. Now, admittedly, I just found out about this feud before the show, so I don't know. I think I'd be okay with.
This has been going on for like weeks and weeks. Have you just been changing that many diapers?
I have been, actually. Not only. I've been building a chicken coop.
And let me just say something. You should be thrilled there's a downward force. Otherwise, that would be a total nightmare.
It would be everywhere.
It would be everywhere if there wasn't a downward force, because relative density ain't going to take care of that problem.
Well, I would say I guess I can be cool with things just being down, though it does make sense from, if I'm putting my scientific hat on, that there does need to be a force to establish down.
And then density sorts itself out after that.
Yes, but then is that me just coming at it from my preconceived, bias that, yeah, you need a force to create something, or is it already created?
So Bob did a thought experiment, and again, we can't prove this because we are here on Earth, but imagine yourself being in space. There's nothing. There's no Earth, there's no planets, no stars, just empty space, and you have a metal ball bearing, and you release it in space. You just release it without any force in any direction. Does it just stay there?
No, it goes
where? No, it doesn't. You just being argumentative.
It goes down.
Which way's down?
Towards the Earth.
There is no Earth.
There is no space.
Stop it. Come on. All right, so again, pointless argument.
Let me just say this. What we can both agree on is that gravity doesn't exist.
Guys, sucker shooting.
You need something like gravity is to referee a solar system and a universe and to stick things to a ball. If we believe that we're on a flat, motionless plane, we don't need gravity. In fact, gravity doesn't work because if you have a center point of mass below the Earth, however many miles below, say, the North Pole, as you start to work your way out to the edges, gravity would actually increase for you as you walked out to the edge, and things wouldn't work the same. And so we know that gravity in its form that they tell us does not exist. So
I think that flat earthers, researchers, are so upset at this whole gravity argument that anything that even resembles gravity, like a force, they have a mental block to. And I asked Sharon, I said, if you chopped off Bob's head and your head and dropped them at the same time, whose head would hit the floor first? And the answer is Sharon's. Because then
yeah, nice. I like it. For fear of
another alpha. There can only be one.
I would say that I would probably towards.
Right, I like it.
Yeah.
So we'll call that David on a CFR or Team Bob if you're on Globus. I like it. So now, as far as sharing, you're an easy kill. The good thing about this is, if they both agree, they could both be wrong. Now that they're both really thinking hard and trying to come up with the answer, and I believe when somebody comes up with real good proof, that'll overcome the answer. Because it's not about egos with either one of them. Great. And I think that we're all without these disagreements, I don't think we would get as far as we've gotten.
I would say that I think there's a force. In fact, I would say that I know there's a force, but it's something of which I know nothing about, but I'm sure controls 95% of our universe.
I'm sure of that. You should go on Nathan Oakley's show and say that.
I was doing Neil deGrasse Tyson. Dark energy.
All right, so now people are probably getting sick of this, so I'm gonna let this one go. But again, the thing I wanted to say is the trolls. You heard this rumor because the trolls are saying this is going to be the end of Flat Earth. This is the final nail in the coffin. Are you kidding me? This is going to make Flat Earth stronger.
Nice. Yeah, I totally agree. So, all right, we'll move on to our show here. We were, you mentioned earlier with the Green Lake Music Festival. I actually saw a drone shot of the festival. I asked you on Facebook, you actually attended or intended to be a drone?
I get there really early because it's easy to get a great spot. So my buddies and I, we go like before the sunrise and have a really great day. It's actually, that's the best time of the day when nobody's there. And then all the people show up like, hey, get out of here. So I flew the drone around a little bit and took some shots. It was great. One thing happened while we're waiting in line, so the line's going down the block and around the corner. I had to walk to my car to put the drone away, of course, because you can't bring drones into a music festival. And he saw my buddy, we were talking, and he's standing there with his 20-something-year-old kid.